WNYathletics.com would like to thank today's sponsors. Howard Hanna Real Estate Services. Ready to sell your home? Visit howardhanna.com today. Howard Hanna. Home happens here. Western New York Immediate Care, with 4 convenient locations in the Buffalo area: Amherst, Buffalo, Depew, Lancaster, and Orchard Park. Western New York Immediate Care is now offering telemedicine services to provide you care anytime, anywhere. Visit WNY Immediate Care on-site or virtually at WNYimmediatecare.com. Logistics Plus Buffalo is your go-to resource for all your transportation needs. LP moves freight of all shapes and sizes all across the world. Call LP Buffalo today at 716-877-9653 or email buffalo@logisticsplus.com. AdPro Sports. AdPro is the largest team sports dealers and brand merchandise providers in the nation. For a variety of custom merchandise solutions, from apparel to promotional items, visit adprosports.com. Empire Electric. For all your home, business, or office electrical needs, call Empire Electric at 716-634-0330. Free estimates and financing available for all customers. Empire Electric. Call 716-634-0330.
Hey everybody, welcome into High School Sports Sunday. April Fools, it's High School Sports Saturday. I know, that was a bad joke. I've told much better April Fools jokes. That's a conversation, though, for later. But this is High School Sports Saturday. I'm joined right now by Joe Daniel, Frank Wolf, and Tom Prince are getting the Saturday off. And we're talking lacrosse today. We're relaxing today.
Yes, that's pretty good. A relaxing on a Saturday. You know, it's April Fool's. Is it April Fool's that I'm supposed to be here? Because this is my first time in this type of show with you.
That's right.
I'm glad you took off your Buff State hoodie, because I was going to feel bad that I didn't wear my Madai hoodie. If I wore my Syracuse hoodie, that'd be false advertising.
But yeah, this is High School Sports Saturday. We're going to be previewing boys and girls lacrosse. We're going to do the boys in just a few minutes. And then around maybe 10:15 or so, we're going to... let me start with this. We're going to have the boys in just a few minutes. We'll have Tim Kenny, Jeremy Murphy, who we had on last year. They'll be in with Ed Greenway, coach of Williams East. He's also the Section 6 boys chairman. They're going to be going through, they're going to talk about the state of the game right now and preview this season and the teams to watch out for. So we'll have that as the first part of our show. Then about 10:15 or so, Joe will be on with Amber Hill and Emily Peters. Emily Peters, of course, the coach over at Williams East. Amber Hill, one of the best refs in all of Section 6 and one of our lead analysts here at Western New York Athletics for girls lacrosse. So we're excited to give the lacrosse players their just due as their season kind of gets underway. I know they played a couple of games, some of them, but really now they're going on, all the kids are going on break, of course, which it's crazy to me how they do it before Easter, because when I was a kid, they did it after, which makes more sense to me, but that's a conversation for another day.
Well, when I was younger, we used to have the 2-week spring break.
Oh,
And now some schools do, the February winter break, but there are still some that do the 2 weeks. And here's a good question, this or that, right? For, Marty Brown, what would you rather have, a 2-week spring vacation or a 1 week in February, 1 week in April?
I think I like it split up a little bit.
I think the kids like that better too.
Yeah, I think that would be like a long, grueling grind from beginning of January all the way to April to get off. And then I think after 2 weeks, I think as much as you enjoyed it, it'd be hard to get back in the swing of things.
Oh, for sure.
But I would rather have the spring break after Easter than before. To have it before just doesn't feel right to me.
I agree. And you want better weather. I mean, today's 56 degrees, finally.
Yeah.
But tomorrow will be 38. But you talk about the weather in lacrosse, right? Some of these teams have started, and it's tough when you start a spring season in March and it's cold and it's rainy. So hopefully we have some better weather, obviously with baseball coming up soon. But some of these girls and boys lacrosse teams that have started their seasons, their scrimmages, and some of the regular season games, they've played in some rough weather. And I remember a story when I was a freshman at St. Francis that we played a game. I didn't play. I was not good at lacrosse, but they played.
You were on the bench?
No. I was at home. 25-degree weather in snow. I mean, it's incredible what these athletes do in the spring to play the game. They're going to be out there, rain or snow, and then that story proves it.
Yeah, I mean, these kids really care. And again, this with spring, it's such a shortened season compared to the others.
It goes
So
fast.
you come off a winter, which is I think 12 weeks, fall, which is 11, 12 weeks. Because they're not all equal. All they aren't equal. These terms of the size of even the official sizes of the seasons aren't even equal. I think winter is a little bit bigger than the others, and of course you have spring, which I think is technically 11 or 12 weeks, but it gets, because of the weather, kind of feels shortened a little
Especially
bit.
for baseball.
Yeah, especially baseball, softball, especially when they didn't have, turf or whatever, and you're facing the rainouts. And even now, like even with the turf, if it's still too cold, they can't play. But at least, if it's raining a little bit or if it's a little bit wet, they can still get away with playing. Or before on the dirt, like you'd have to be dry.
Did you see Frontier got a new baseball field?
No, I missed that one.
Yep, they got a new baseball field, and it is unbelievable. I mean, they've got the stands behind home plate. It's beautiful what they did there for the Frontier Falcons and what the players are going to be playing on this year.
Yeah, Joe, why don't you start us up on news and notes?
Yeah, so for news and notes, something I came across this week, it really wasn't a surprise to a lot of people, probably close to Section 6 basketball, but Coach Ben Drake retired from Jamestown after 25 seasons with the Jamestown Red Raiders, and he had just a great career. He has two kids, Marley and Trey, who are going to college, and it just, his time that he felt it was good to step away and have a new voice, but mostly because, Marley and Trey are going to college, and he's a dad. He's a good dad. He wants to be there for his kids.
How many trips do you think he's going to make to North Dakota?
Well, okay.
Those are pretty long trips.
Yes, but, he can go now if he wants. You know what I mean? And that's great for Trey to go to North Dakota. I mean, you saw with Trey Lance and what he was able to do. You just never know. Now, nothing's a guarantee in life, but he's going to have a chance to compete out there, and that's all these quarterbacks ever want. But to have the opportunity to go to North Dakota, to go see Marley play basketball, and just to be a dad after 25 years, he got to coach his son in school, and now it's his time to be a dad for these kids, and he had a great career. Unfortunately, the season ended not the way that they wanted, but it doesn't take away from what happened for 25 years.
Yeah, he certainly leaves a legacy, and he'll still be there as AD. And I wonder if he'll ever come back, because he's still got some younger kids too.
Yeah, and he's not that old.
Yeah, no, he's not. So you could see him make a second act, kind of.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so it'll be interesting for Jamestown, and big shoes to fill for his replacement. That is an active search that's starting right away. Because he had posted that he's already getting information about summer leagues and stuff, and they've got some good qualified coaches, from the assistant side, the JV side. He had mentioned the freshman side, so no matter what happens, this is going to affect the JV coach and the freshman coach getting promotions going up.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Other news and notes. Xander Fletcher, we're going to head up to Niagara County, quarterback for Niagara Wakefield. He is committed to Oswego for football. We know he's a big basketball player. I think he was considering hoops as well, but ultimately he decides to go with the gridiron. He's going to Oswego. Also yesterday in town was Isaiah McDuffie and Stephen Means, both BPS alumni who've played in the NFL. They were in Western New York yesterday to speak to students at Lydia School in Buffalo Public Schools. So that was a good event. I think Frank was there. We might have something up. I know we saw Mario Hall was there. And we want to give a special shout out to, of course, Roger Weiss. He's fighting strong right now, dealing with his issues. But we know he's fighting strong right now. I know Frank was there. It's good to see him. Great supporter of Western New York athletics in general, especially softball and baseball. And I know he's given a lot to Hilbert. He's actually the first male graduate from Hilbert College.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Do you imagine
Is that the stat of the day?
That might be. Do you imagine going to a school and being the only guy?
No. Considering I went to St. Francis, as everyone knows here that is a part of Western New York athletics. I did go to St. Francis. I unfortunately don't have a hoodie, but I was there's tons of guys there, being all guys school, but being the only guy, I mean, that is something that I would put on my grave. Honestly, the only guy that graduated from Hilbert, first guy and stuff.
Oh, speaking of St. Francis,
All right,
another
yeah.
news and note: 1992 grad Kevin Kulik has been named the head basketball coach at Army West Point.
I did see that.
So congratulations to him. And then Maryvale had a couple signings this week. I know there are probably a few others. But you have Rachel Marks is going to Hilbert for bowling. So another Hilbert. And Emma Jones is going to Sacred Heart for bowling. We had them in a couple weeks ago as we got ready for bowling states. Also, Kaylee Chizitsky is going to Gannon for softball. Will Schiller, Alfred University for football, and of course Justice Hill is going to Edenborough for football.
You know, Francis, with these girls and boys with bowling, how good they are, it's incredible. I mean, I can bowl like a 150, but these kids get over 220, 250. They make it look so easy. So, I mean, bowling is...
And they do it like every day.
They do it every day.
I'm surprised, like pitchers, and like the one thing I asked
It's hard. It's
with
very
pitchers.
tiring.
Well, with like pitchers and stuff, like they tell you like you can only pitch so many days in a row and all that.
Yeah.
And the bowler's like, yeah, we just go every day, whatever. Don't have to worry about like our arms falling off or anything like that.
Yeah, it's way more tiring than they'll ever make it out to be. My aunt she's actually in the Professional Hall of Fame. She taught me how to bowl, but I'm not as good as these girls and boys.
Joe, do we have anything to go to any other news and notes before we get to our boys lacrosse preview?
St. Joe's did have a lacrosse game this week. They beat Hamburg 8-2, so good start for them. Interesting to see how the boys lacrosse goes out this year. How St. Francis can compete. It's a tough league. We know how tough. We did some of the Monsignor Martin girls games last year, and how tough the girls league is, and we'll talk about that later. But I'm just ready for lacrosse season. I'm ready to get out there to do some games and better weather. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, so we're going to start our boys lacrosse preview. So earlier this week, we had our own Tim Kenny, Jeremy Murphy, and, of course, Ed Greenway, coach of Williamsville East and Section 6 Chairman. They previewed the boys lacrosse season. They couldn't make it in this morning and do it live, so they did it earlier this week in our studio. So here they are, and here is your 2023 boys lacrosse preview.
Do we bow first?
Thank you. No, I thank you for those kind words, Francis.
Well, welcome. You know, it's exciting. Springtime's always fun, right, Coach?
It is wonderful.
It's one of those things where, with the weather turning, granted in Western New York, it's been a little more unpredictable.
Sure.
We'll call it that. A little snow yesterday and cold weather.
Snow on the schedule tomorrow, I'm sure.
But
Yeah.
we're used to that
That's
up
right.
here, and but the springtime comes lacrosse season, and the history here of lacrosse in Western New York is rich. It's long, it's rich, and it's one of those sports that where hockey or football might get more play or basketball, lacrosse is right there when it comes to the competitiveness throughout the state. So let's talk about where are we at here in Western New York first and foremost with lacrosse as a sport.
Sure, I think you're absolutely right, Tim. It's when we talk about steeped in tradition, we're talking about we are the Western Door, and the Western Door and the Iroquois Confederacy guarded that. And starting the game when they had that game, they were tremendous athletes that had to endure through seasons and things like that. And I think in Western New York, we've over the last couple of years, we've had to endure the pandemic that kind of flushed out some of our kids. Those rough years where we had a 6-week season was difficult to play and teams didn't have enough players. And I think we still have had to endure the time where players are not coming back out to play in all sports. And we see it in the spring. So I think we see a jump this year where, at least talking with a lot of the coaches, they're having a high number of tryout players. Teams are trying to hold longer players. We have 26 and our JV have 26, so the numbers have creeped back up, and that's very exciting to see because there was a bump that we didn't know if we were going to come back from. I think the state of lacrosse is growing. We don't have any new teams in this year, and that's different from the last 4 where we've had a team add in. But the good thing is we've been stable in keeping the teams that we've had. The only difference is they've shifted this year, and that's a huge component in preparing for this season, this spring, is we have some of the old stalwarts in different classes bumping up or bumping down. And then our Class A is only 3 teams this year, and that's all dictated by the state enrollment numbers, the beds numbers, that they try to get 25% in A, 25% schools in B and C and D, and that's not necessarily good for certain areas when you don't have big schools. So you'll see some differences. You're going to see a Clarence that has always been a Class A move down to Class B. A Hamburg that has been a stalwart in Class B moves down to C. The East Shore program that has been, on top of it, Class C the last few years, now moves down to Class D. And then you have North Tonawanda and Sweet Home moving back up to Class B. So the competition factor will, as everybody tries to grow their teams and develop their teams, the competition piece will be different in each bracket in each class this year. So that'll be exciting for every team.
Tim, you were talking earlier about some of the trends when you were at the AD at Bonnie, some of the trends you saw. How did that tie in with what Eddie just said, and can you explain that a little?
Well, pre-pandemic, there was the thought that at 2025, the kids eligible for college, that population is smaller, and everyone knew it. So from private schools, everyone was very keen on it because that's where you're drawing your kids from, and that number was getting smaller. And you see that at a college level. You see colleges closing. Other ones, like it just happened the other day, St. Francis of Brooklyn dropped sports totally, got rid of it, and they moved to an office building in Brooklyn just to have classes. And so what we saw was this dip is coming, and I think it translates over, just like Coach was just talking about, to the number of participants. Because let's put it out there, it's a numbers game. You want to nobody recruits at this level. Nobody does that. So you have to deal with what you have within your institution. And if you have less numbers, what you're seeing here, these teams shifting, the Hamburg going down, Clarence going down. You look at those, you have less numbers, that means you have less kids to draw from.
Did they see that Western New York was taking a larger hit than other areas of New York?
It was, with the population, which is, you hear the good news now that population's upticking a little bit.
Sure.
A lot of young people coming back in with young families. So you're talking, preschool, early kindergarten, early elementary school, and that's going to take some time, as Coach just said, to catch up. The good news is it's trending right in this area of the country. Bad news is you got to weather through this next portion of it, and it's not just sports; it's schools in general. Where I'm right now at Timon, it was how do you stem that tide of losing kids? And we've been successful in going up from
Enrollment
40 in class 2 years ago to freshmen, 60-something this past year. Now we're tracking at 90. There are some ways that it's doing it, but in the end, somebody else is losing out at this time. And I think that's what you see with the sports right now. Sure. And I think what Coach put on there was, what he said was right, that the pandemic kind of changed some of these kids, and they were used to just staying home and not getting out, and we have to try and coax them to come out. But that means, as a skill level, it's going to be a little bit less at times for the majority. Not, you have the kids that stay with the sports, and
sure.
But the rest that you use to fill out these programs and have JV and varsity. Like, we can't have a JV right now for lacrosse at Timon. We don't have enough participants yet. We anticipate in a year or two we will be able to, but that's that gap we have to kind of bridge before it starts to really take off again.
Sure, and I know Coach Balika will inspire kids to want to play the game, and once it's a contagious game. Once you get the opportunity and the stick in the hand, then it becomes, you fall in love with it, and it goes. And he's a great person, a motivator of young men, that he'll get that done.
Yeah, and it's attracting them. It's getting the stick in the hand. I think that's a key, because we know that. We've all played the sport, and it's addicting. It is. Yeah. You're holding that stick. My son, at age 5, picked up the stick and said, I want to play lacrosse. Sure. And was just doing stuff. And I'm like, okay, all right, this is your thing. So there is that gap right now. And I think you'll see that statewide going through. I'm not talking about the St. Anthony's of the world that are down on Long Island, that kids they were so established, kids are just flocking to go play there because they want to get recruited. I'm just talking the other schools all throughout the state, and as Coach said, you go up north of Albany, the population is not huge, but you're going to have a team that's going to be put in Class A.
You can even see it,
Yeah.
Tim, as close as Rochester. Talking with Mike Simon last week, they have programs in their two-tier system. They don't have any JVs. Like the teams that are outside the city of Rochester, the big schools, those small schools south of Rochester, they don't have enough kids. They're just enough to have, a small team, and some schools are starting to combine because they're experiencing exactly what you
Yeah.
said.
And it happens across the country. I remember growing up on Long Island, at our town, it was booming, and then you had to close elementary schools. And then they kept them, and then they would reopen them. So there's an ebb and flow when it comes to the student availability, and that's been going on. But this one was known because they knew from the demographics that there was going to be a dip nationwide at this level.
That's interesting, and to see how it ties in. And as the Section 6 chair, just can you tell us a little, in the off seasons, like what is it, the things that you do to try and help the area with lacrosse? What things are you involved with camps? And I know you're involved with the Amherst Lacrosse Association, and there's a wide array. But what are some things that you guys specifically are doing in Section 6 to keep that youth foundation rolling?
Yeah, I think what's really important, Jeremy, is that we're reaching out to those youth programs that are growing. You have the Pendletons and you have the smaller North Tonawandas that are trying to build their programs. So we provided, USA Lacrosse provided a coaches clinic for all those summer youth coaches 3 weeks ago at Sportsplex. It was free of charge, and we just really gave them drills and walked through our players from North, East, and Clarence, and Coach Cummins and Coach Bain. And I put together a clinic where we actually talked about skills and drills, made it a 1 hour type of practice so those coaches could literally take these drills and skills and then implement them into practices this summer. We also are really advocates to the exceptional senior game that takes place every spring. It's the longest running continuous, excluding COVID, exceptional senior game in the state, founded and started by John Fowler in 1980, and we've kept it going except for the COVID year. So that came back last year at North Tonawanda. We're going to do it again this year up in Newfane. Newfane is a new program. They wanted to host it, so that's another thing. We have been busily working on getting the Hall of Fame, the Western New York USA Chapter Hall of Fame dinner and event that will be held next December, January in collaboration with the Bandits game. Nominations are now being accepted for that. I think we also look at making sure that we're represented at the state tournament. Coach Hopkins, Coach Brizzuti, myself, Coach Kessler went down there, and we represent Western New York, and we help facilitate the state tournament games and kind of see how the games run, because who knows, maybe someday Western New York will host the state Final Four, per se.
Just thinking back, so what does the Section 6 chairman do? What does the chairman across the state in all the different sections, what is it that you guys do to get us to this point where season starts game 1?
The biggest thing, Jeremy, is just talking and communicating, make sure the state tournament, state rules, implementing all those rules. We meet always in the off season with Walt Munsey, who is in the process of finalizing those.
One of the greats of Central New York.
One of the greats.
Walt's an icon legend,
Yes, he
hands
is.
down.
Yeah.
Hi to Walt if you happen to hear this. Great man.
He is our liaison to the rules, so he wants to make sure that we are given the rules, then that we disseminate the rules to our meetings. We always have a rules interpretation meeting that was held at the beginning of, or actually tail end of February, where Rob Gross
Yeah.
was our representative. So he goes to his meetings, then he comes and disseminates the information. We talk about what we need to see. Our biggest dilemma that we saw last year was there was a tremendous uptick in flagrant penalties where we had fighting, expulsions. In the last 10 years,
That's
we had the
interesting.
most
What do
expulsions.
you
The reasoning of it, I think it's a combination. One, as coaches, we need to, really push down and stipulate, hey, it's unacceptable. That's not a part of this game. And then as officials, we came to the conclusion, both of us as coaches and officials, that we both have to do a better job of saying, hey, right from the get-go, we have to call the fouls. And then once the children, or once the players, I should say, know that this is what the rule is, they change.
It's okay to be a middle school teacher.
Yeah, that's
It's
it
okay.
came out. That came out quick
It's
right
okay.
there.
Well, you're with 2 children, my age, so don't worry about that.
The 6th grade in me, yeah.
I was just thinking, as you were speaking there, Rob Gross and all these guys who have dedicated themselves are referees. How is the state of the referees right now? What can we do to help them and get more people involved to become referees?
It's a great question, Jeremy, because
They're a vital piece, vital team on the
piece.
field.
And we know in America right now there are not officials going back into coaching or officiating anything because the number one reason,
Parents.
parents.
The sideline.
The
I'll
sideline-
say it for you, Coach. Don't worry,
the
it's parents.
The parents.
It is.
And I don't get me wrong, I get intense in the game too, but I know when I stop, when he says, "Well, enough, coach, you got it, we hear you." But we lost officials through the pandemic, where people just didn't want to do it anymore. We gained enough that we lost. I think we lost 10. We got 10 in the class this year. They are actively recruiting youth coaches or youth referees that have played the game that are just a vital
Vital piece.
piece that you're just sitting there, it's great
There's so
money.
many of those little gray area nuances that happen in the game that if you haven't played it, it's tough to call.
Absolutely,
A
but
fair
you have-
No, not a fair game, but it's just tough to call those nuances. It's kind of like a foul in basketball. And if you don't know when that moment of a foul occurs, you can have those errors. But our referees, and believe me, I was tough on my referees always, but I have deep respect for the referees who have put their time in and donated. And the kids need to know that this is a way to make money on the side,
Absolutely
too.
is.
You can make a good dollar doing it and be a part of the game. It's a different way to give back to the game. Unlike, the coaching, you have the youth coaches, assistant coach, doing what we're doing here, anything, all of us that love the game of
It promotes the
lacrosse,
game, exactly.
it brings it back. So
And they-
anything we can do, we want to help.
They actually do have a mentor program in the summers for high school kids, high school players that have played. $50, you get $50 an hour for doing the game.
NFLOA.com, I believe it is. So if you're interested in becoming a referee at any point, NFLOA.com, check that out. Or .org, might be .org, check
it
that, but one of those two. So, that's good stuff. And, I got to compliment you. You've always, since I came here 20 some odd years ago, who should you go talk to? Your name popped right up. John Fowler, of course, our former Section 6 chairman. You're the second section, the only 2 guys to ever run the area region, which is kind of unique. And what's it like to sit in that position where you've only been the second? And he started it in 1980.
Yeah.
And how many years is this? This is 5 for you? 6?
I think it's 6.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure counting anymore, but it was a great honor to follow it up. But it's an extremely important position that I look at, that you have to be that liaison to represent everybody, and you have to have those kind of glasses on to always think of everybody. Are there always questions? Sure. Are there concerns? Absolutely. But you're there to one, foster the game, but also help the younger coaches and the new programs come on. Because if we don't feed that and we don't water that, it doesn't grow. And we've been fortunate to each year to grow more teams. And with that growth, we have to make sure we understand that you can't have them always, they have to have some success, because if teams like a Newfane or Wilson don't have success, then they don't have kids that want to play the game. So they have to have enough non-league games that they can play against other teams that are in the same boat, because that's always been an issue. Like, okay, we want to play the best to get the best. Well, we have been very successful in the state tournament over the last 4 or 5 years. We have beaten Rochester teams. We've gone to the Final Four. Have we had a team in the state championship in a while? Not really, but the OPs of yesteryear were there. So we're closer than we think, but we got to remember to bring the bottom up too, to make the top the best.
It was always amazing to talk to John. We would go on those long rides to the coaching
Sure.
clinics or whatever it may be, and John would talk just about that. He was like, there are things that are going to hit the table today in a discussion. I remember a school had brought something. They felt that Class B should have X number and people could move around different point systems. And I remember John very specifically stating, as Section 6 chairman, that does not work for these people here, so it's a hard no.
Sure.
And people were upset, but he would always had, as Section 6 chairman, have the big picture in mind to keep this moving and watering that plant. So I commend you for that. That's not easy to do.
I think having people like yourself, Murph being around, that have been so integral in the game is key to keeping this going. you look at, we lost a great one this year in Pat Lally,
Yes, we did.
who
Yep.
a lot of people, they knew what he looked like sometimes. Maybe they didn't know his name was Pat, but he was always around and he was always helping to grow the game, whether at the youth level, high school level, college. Heck, when I was at St. Bonaventure and we played our game against St. Joe's our first year in the Bills Fieldhouse, Pat Lolly's grabbing the goals and bringing them over because it was all about lacrosse, and I think it's so critical, and people understand that there are people here that are making this go. This is not just happening naturally. There is a concerted effort to continue to grow this game, and you look at any sport. I'll take soccer for example. U.S. soccer on the women's side is phenomenal. On the men's, they've been trying everything. And they want to change things on the college level to keep that going. They're trying to push this, and it's not clicking yet. But it's the same thing here. I equate it to in lacrosse is it clicked. We got a little bump. We talked about earlier with COVID, but now it'll click back up because I think a lot of kids will get involved if you have good people at all different levels and training them to enjoy the game and have fun with it. Because to me, that's the biggest part.
It's so important.
Yeah.
So important, Tim, because we saw in our meeting there were 8 brand new varsity coaches in Western New York.
It's interesting.
Young
Yeah.
youth
Yep.
The youth movement is coming. And getting back to Pat, when we think about the creator's game, we play this game to please the creator. Pat pleased the creator every moment that he could as a advocate of lacrosse. And another one that did it that we lost on the referee side. Mike Roberts was another
right.
advocate that made
The Irish.
referees, the Irish
Sir
sticking
Roberts.
together for crying out loud.
Yeah, he was the best. He was.
Yes.
Wasn't he the Irish parade?
He was the grand
and
Grand Marshal.
Irish.
I'm
the
half Irish, okay?
Yeah.
Don't hold no.
Everybody's Irish once
We're all
a year. It's
Irish.
okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
But as much as we talk about the graciousness of Pat, and we think of his family and Mike's family, and we've lost some people that were incredibly giving. While you're here, it's good to say when I first came in, reflecting back on that, I don't know if I ever paid once because you picked up the tab for every coach going down to Baltimore in the spirit of giving back to Western New York lacrosse. So kudos to you on that. And I didn't have the money to do that, but that's how the youth coaches come about, and that's how we've got a lot of those people that are sitting in there right now. I was just looking at switching to Class A here shortly. I'm looking at Ken Cummings, who is one of yours, and these guys were all in these conventions when they were really young, and they're still coaching a lot of them. So I mean, I appreciated that, and I know a lot of the coaches came in. You were the guy that really coddled some of us trying to figure out where to land here. And that's why we moved to your school, Happy Heim, where you're retiring from this year.
Well, it's been good 37. Good
Yeah,
37. And I have
it's
the finest
fantastic.
of all the Murphys. Kate,
My-
the find of the
oh
caboose.
boy, Kate
you know?
is going to not be happy to hear her name mentioned on any of this. God bless her. But yeah, we appreciate you as a
it is a-
teacher and a coach and
Thank you.
everything. And I know it sounds like a love fest, but when you get opportunities to say it, you got to say it.
Thank you.
Because I think that you've done a gracious job to and to Michelle and your family, because I remember being in ALA 20 years ago, or maybe so. Now your daughter just is, Mercyhurst is working at Mercyhurst. Your oldest daughter went to the Mets right out of the gate and was working for the Mets and is now out on the West Coast. And Colin goes to Mercyhurst and that fun program that we had. But the donation of family time that Michelle had to give, and the kids where you're away doing it, and that as AD, it's a lot on coaches.
I think it's something that this game does.
It does.
It's unique to
Yes.
any other game. I coach football and basketball as well, but lacrosse is so unique to that. It's something about the fraternity, sorority, whatever you want to call it. People care, and it's okay to show how much they care because they'll travel wherever and
Yes.
they'll do anything they can for them. And maybe that's like that with other sports, but it's something different about lacrosse. The people just want to give and want to give back to that because maybe it is that steeped creator's game that why we do that.
I think you're right. It carries over to college. You see it at college level all the time.
Sure.
Parents all get together. They all tailgate together. They get food for the kids after the game. That it's part of the culture.
It is. That's a great way.
And it does create a family type atmosphere. And Murph and I are blessed to be able to enjoy it right
We're-
now at St. Bonaventure with our sons playing.
It's a wonderful.
But you make
Enjoy every
friends.
minute of it,
Yeah,
boys.
it's great. You know, they're struggling a little bit this year, but they'll be
It's
all
year
right.
5. It was expected.
It was expected.
But
It
you're
was-
both that struggling piece. That's why you take that 7-hour trip to wherever they were playing. You know, whether it be Roanoke or whether it be, you know, Stony Brook or whatever. You went there, and that 15 or 20-minute talk where you're having a sub after a slice of pizza, that goes so far for your sons.
Yes.
To get them to the next week, get through it, because it's a grind. Let's not kid ourselves. A college athlete that endures all 4 years is a rarity. But when they do that, you tell me any business that doesn't want to hire that type of person, because they've endured, one, the coach's expectations, the springs that they have to deal with, and how hard they have to work, and then they have to juggle it all while they're doing their schoolwork and their friendships and it's a tremendous attribute to your boys. One, that they're playing and competing at the highest level, even to have to endure some lumps, but think about how much they're going to grow from enduring those lumps.
We give them it builds character.
Sure,
speech.
it does. as it does.
Well, it's good because I think as coaches, and I think in this, we have the parent-coach thing would be a further conversation maybe down the season, but I think it is important to understand that, coaches are not there to do anything but make our kids uncomfortable. And we're not there to constantly, you're there to be their coach, and you're there to push them and put them under pressure. And John always used to say, Fowler, he was like, our job as coaches to put your kids under extreme pressure and see how they react and see what they do. And then we can see where they're at. But it's not, obviously there's that other side where is it going too far with some of that stuff? Are you giving them that love, that grace, but pushing and never being comfortable? Okay, you had 3 goals. That's wonderful. But this team you're playing, you could get 6, 7. Or, that's being extreme maybe, but improving your game overall to be a part of the piece of the puzzle. And that's the piece, as coaches, I think I feel the frustration is it's not about little Johnny. It's about how little Johnny works in with the other 20 guys, 30 people on the team. And can they play their role? Can they step up and be that star that they need to be? Because someone's got to be the star. But maybe this game you're the star, maybe the next game it floats around. But that pressure that you put the kids under is something I think that parents can misconstrue. That's another conversation for another day. But, it's the truth. I think it's real.
We'll find out if he adheres to that when he has to go for his first stress test at the doctor to see if he agrees to doing it.
Yeah. All right. I already got fired up. I got to calm down. But we do have to switch gears because this is about this season. We're excited to have the season's right in front of us, and we're fired up to get
Already
this
a few
going.
games under the belt.
Yes, and I
which is this
saw
week as
yesterday
well.
my Sweet Home guys at school were fired up, and they had a
Took care
game
of the
yesterday.
Tonawanda
Yeah, played NT
Warriors?
and won 7-0.
Not
So
NT,
proud.
Tonawanda,
Or
correct.
not Tonawanda, yes. Excuse me, and they were all excited today. But today they had Lancaster, so they were like, okay, we'll see where we're at today, right?
Absolutely.
But it was great to see them do that. So let's go to the Class A's.
Well, we'll take a break. We'll
Take
take
a
a
break,
break right
gotcha,
now.
yeah.
We'll come back and we'll go through the upcoming season and what we're expected to see in the Class A, B, C, and D. Since now we've shown how the deck has been shuffled and laid out,
Yeah.
and we can give you a preview. So we'll be right back.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA, with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics. Call our Buffalo office today for an efficient, personal approach for all of your transportation needs.
When you're ready to buy a home, start your search at howardhanna.com. You'll be the first to see new listings, find similar properties, and connect with a local Howard Hanna agent. Get started today at howardhanna.com.
Welcome back for our Western New York Athletics Lax Preview. And we're here with the legendary coach, Ed Greenway, and my partner in crime, Jeremy Murphy. And today we really want to go through now what we're going to see coming up in this season. And the different classes we talked about earlier have changed.
They have.
So I believe let's start with Class A, because that's where it's changed. And now, based upon state rules, as you mentioned, there's only 3 teams in Class A.
That is correct. And the way they did their schedule, Coach Bain does the schedule for Class A and Class B, is they play each other once, just to make sure they have enough games, and then they'll have their non-league games. But looking at Class A, we've got City Honors, along with Kenmore, which the Kenmore teams are combined, Kenmore East and West, and then Lancaster. So those 3 teams will vie for the state tournament. They will literally have 3 plays 2, and then the winner plays 1, and then that particular team will go to the East, Far West Regional, which is at St. John Fisher in Rochester this year. What do we see? Kenmore is young. They got 2 new coaches that are going to do gangbusters, because they really are inspiring to get kids to come out. The new coach at City Honors, I do not know who that is yet, because Tony Trelizio has stepped away.
I believe it's Joe Catalano right now, Coach. Joe Catalano stepped in on that
He
one.
was the assistant there for several years, and he was a good kid. He came in, he almost got a job over at Sweet Home, and then ended up taking another one. But he is a very dedicated coach to City Honors.
And he has a steep tradition from learning a lot, I'm sure, from his dad, who was the
Orchard Park,
head coach at Orchard Park. Cat's got to be proud to see his son taking over that program, and he'll build it and grow it from the bottom up, and be able to compete.
If you think about this Class A right now, Clarence drops down. Orchard Park a couple of years ago dropped down. So you had Clarence, Orchard Park, and Lancaster there, which were 3 high. They were cruising high caliber, and now it's shifted a little bit. And you look at this, and obviously Lancaster has the pedigree out of the 3 right now. The other 2 are building. They're in a building phase. Lancaster, they've got some good people coming back, good kids coming off their team, but they have to make up for some too. They lost a couple of Luke Sushina and Ryan Lynn on offense, and Ben Fleck on defense. Those were key players for them, and now they're going to have to find a way to make up for what they lost with those players. But he's got a lot coming back. You've got Noah Sushina coming back, the junior on attack, Brendan D, the goalie, who it's always good to have a senior goalie, right, Coach?
Very important, because it starts from the back end.
Yeah, and you want to look at that, and then you have the Fleck twins, who like to run around in that midfield, and they work well together. So you look at this squad, and they're poised to stay at the top right now to go to the top of Class A, but City Honors and Kenmore will come along. In the end, because we started off the season. City Honors beat Starpoint 17-7 in their first game of the year, and then Kenmore beat Starpoint 13-8. We're not harping on Starpoint; those are just results.
But those are 2 wins.
And that's a young program. Starpoint just started, and
Yeah.
one of the former assistants, David Reed, who was a referee for years, was at Sweet Home, and was worked for our Modified, did our Modified there, and they opened up a position. He's a teacher there, and it worked out great for him.
And one of my former players is his assistant.
That's right.
Steve Dilac. So they'll grow that, and they've had that summer program that feeds it. Now they're going to start to reap the benefits from that. Another new coach at Lancaster. So we got 3 new coaches, and all Class A. Chris Dixon takes over for the Lancaster Legends, and he'll do a great job because he's been in the program, Modified JV, and then he's bumped up.
He's worked his way up.
He's worked his way up.
How with teams like these 3, they have to fill out, as you mentioned, a whole out of conference schedule, and that's hard.
How many teams total per schedule can you get? The max of, is it 16 or
16 games.
Dropped it from 18 to 16.
That is
I
correct,
remember.
and they never added more on. And in a sense, 16 is enough because you need to have some spacing. It is a physical sport, so I think if we went back to 18, some coaches would probably keep it at 16. But 16 is, and when they cut the 2, that was just to cut down on expenses and cost and things like that. We're the only sport that didn't come back to the full 18. did you want to slide to? I mean, getting back to the question, Tim, that you asked, they play everybody in their division twice, and then they play everybody in Class B once. Then they have about 5 non-league games.
Okay, so that's similar to what the other programs are looking for. Okay,
correct.
so
just because they have a smaller number, that guaranteed them their games, but it also allowed them, a younger program like a City Honors and a Kenmore, they can play a Newfane or a Wilson, a more compatible school. Even though they're a big school, they can be the competitive edge would be more similar.
kind of like the Monsignor Martin model in the sense where everyone plays each other twice because they only have a small number of teams to play, and then you're able to fill in the gaps.
So when you slide to Class B now, and we go there, how is this different? So they play each other once, I would assume, and then fill their schedule with
That's correct,
non-leagues.
with non-leagues.
Okay.
So you look at Class B now, and we talked about Clarence dropping down, and we mentioned North Tonawanda and Sweetum coming up. So now you've got 9 teams in Class B, which is bigger than last year, and once again gives you a little odd number in a sense for scheduling standpoint. But this was the class that was been dominated by Hamburg for forever. In a sense.
That's a good point.
For forever, and even last year Hamburg went 8-0. In conference, 14-4 over Orchard Park. The 2 losses were to Hamburg. So now when you look at this with Orchard Park down there, they start to kind of creep up now at the top there. So everyone still gets their shot.
Sure.
In a sense, from the big dogs moving around, but it's a little bit different for these teams now.
That's correct. And it'll be if you look at this right now, you could probably say it might be the most competitive division this year because of what's coming back. You look at Clarence, having great success winning the sectional title last year, and struggling in that Far West regional game. But Frontier, led by Privateer, he's a solid player that's going to help them. Orchard Park is always strong. Wheatfield has come out of the gate extremely strong. They won their first 2 games. We play them the first day back from break. You think that they graduate people, but they retool, and Coach Schiffer really does a great job of getting the best players in.
One of Western New York's staple coaches, too. He's been around for a long time.
Well, they're an interesting
Given
one
the
because
game.
they lost a combined 64 goals at graduation last year between Gansworth and Fagiani.
Yeah.
And that's
hard to
as
replace.
a coach, you look at the numbers and you're sitting there going, how do we replace that?
I asked that myself every day when I got to replace on 160
Between
our attacks.
Yeah, and then you start to look at those things because I look at a team like Will North now, okay? And Andy's got them there. They've got some key returners coming back.
Yes.
And, you got Gavin Miller in goal. You got Parzik in midfield and attack, Pastori and Matt Jones. You got some
You got
key
some
players.
shooters and finishers there.
Yeah.
And they distribute the ball very well. So, that'll be interesting to see how they play out this year. And they had last year to kind of gel together. And now they get to go out there and play and see what they produce this year. But they do have high potential if they can pull that all together this year. And I think Coach Boehm will get them rolling.
Yeah.
for
Over
sure.
20 seniors he kept.
Yeah.
He's got 36 players that he kept on a team.
It's
Look
amazing.
back to his own
Incredible.
Orchard Park JV year and said, Coach Tundo kept 36, I'll keep 36.
So keep it right up,
So,
right?
But
Yeah.
he's going to graduate
He's-
a
well,
lot,
you got-
but
he's got the
this
numbers.
could be the year for them.
They're a
That's
senior
right.
laden team, and they could be one of those
Good for
teams
North.
that sneak up.
Yeah.
That people are not looking because they see the Orchard Parks and the Clarences. They see those names and like, okay, they're up there. But you look at Orchard Park, they lost a lot from last year. You lost Shanahan, O'Hara, and Slazik on offense. That put in a significant amount of goals, and then so they're going to have to rely on 2 seniors that came up. They've been paying their dues and playing well. Frankie Neeson and Gavin Wellington.
And they'll do their job.
Yeah, they're going to do their job, and then you have the defense. They're lucky because they have a goalie that's been playing, and we did a couple of their games last year. And Lucides, he's a really good goalie, and you have Sully O'Brien,
Stalwart.
Who-
back there.
who-
When
who
you
I
have a player
remember
like
that.
that, he's going to erase
so
the best player.
you've got the middle portion taken care of. It's going to be the question mark on the ends on defense. Do they have players to replace it? But Orchard Park's going to be right back up there and doing their.
Historically, these programs have had, I know, going back to North, they're up there working hard in the off season, in the summer, really doing a lot with the youth. Orchard Park is historically, with Pat and all of them, they had all of that going back all the way to Tommy Gardner, who we lost as well.
Sure.
And Pat emulated in a lot of ways. But they have picked up. They work hard in the off season with these youth programs, and it's always amazing to see, like the Wheatfield, like you said, you go play them, and it's who's that guy? Who is this? Where does this guy come from?
Right.
And they're finishing the rock and doing what they got to do on the field. So, it's going to be interesting to see how Class B kind of plays out this year. Like you said, I do think you have a very competitive league. I think this is going to be fun to watch and see how this really lays out in the end of the season. And
This one was a question mark.
Yeah.
When you're looking at it going in, you're
Absolutely.
kind of looking to say, okay, this team will be here. This
First
one,
half of that
Class
season
B,
will be interesting.
You
There's
couldn't figure it out because,
There's
and
an
that makes it
open shot
exciting
for everyone.
Yeah,
and,
it
and
makes
it
it
will come
exciting.
down to who plays the best at the end of the year, because everybody looks at the season. You have your preseason, and now we're starting our regular season, and then you have the postseason. You want to be peaking, that late May, to see what we have. And there's going to be teams in here that will have to endure injuries, as we all do. But there's 4 or 5 that can take it, and it's just a matter of getting on a roll.
All right, when we come back, we're going to delve into Class C and Class D for this upcoming lacrosse season. You're watching Western New York Athletics.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA, with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics. Call our Buffalo office today for an efficient personal approach.
Oh, it's Wilson. All right, my bad.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Well, we won't say that. Oh.
We didn't say.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
When it's time to sell your home, start with a visit to howardhanna.com, ranked the #1 real estate site for sellers. A few clicks will show you the sales price you can expect for your home. We can get you the most money in the quickest amount of time because we know where the local buyers are and how to reach them. So if it's time to sell your home, visit howardhanna.com today, and we'll match you with a local Howard Hanna agent to sell your home fast.
If you've been injured in an auto accident, large or small, call 681-4088. RES Physical Medicine and Rehab right away. If you are in pain or just sore, don't take chances. Call RES today and take advantage of their 24 to 48-hour appointment pledge. With no copays, RES will help navigate the confusing world of no-fault insurance with you, so you can concentrate on getting better. 681-4088. RES Physical Medicine and Rehab. The most important call you can make after an auto accident.
300 Level Media is a locally owned and operated multi-purpose media company right here in Western New York. You'll find us everywhere, covering the Bills, Sabres, Buttes, Bisons, Big Four basketball, local college sports, and much more. Our staff offers a variety of media services, from video production, live event coverage, audio broadcasts, professional voiceovers, camera operation, and videography. Visit www.300levelmedia.com or give us a call at 716-427-2600. This is 300 Level Media.
You insure a lot of businesses?
Yes, we do.
How about restaurants?
We got a bunch.
Do you cover property damage?
Yes, we do.
How about my equipment?
Covered.
How about sewer backup?
We got it.
What if my cook gets hurt?
They're covered.
Foodborne illnesses?
Covered.
What if my party tent goes down?
Covered under property damage.
And you say this is all under one policy?
One policy.
When do I pay?
Once a month.
Just one time?
Just one.
Is there anything you don't cover?
What's your record for consecutive questions asked?
31.
Tables. We don't do tables.
Gotta love Buffalo.
For all your insurance questions, call the Wolf at 835-WOLF.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics. Call our Buffalo office today for an efficient, personal approach for all of your transportation needs.
When it's time to sell your home, start with a visit to howardhanna.com. Ranked the #1 real estate site for sellers. We can get you the most money in the quickest amount of time because we know where the local buyers are and how to reach them. Get started today at howardhanna.com.
Call 835-WOLF. Remember, you call on the Wolf. That's all you had to say. Call today.
And welcome back to the Western New York Athletics Spring Boys Lacrosse Preview. We're here. My name is Tim Kenny with my partner in crime, Jeremy Murphy, and the legendary Ed Greenway.
Using that legendary.
You know what? You got it. You got to take it for what it is right now. I look at it as a compliment.
It kind of means you have more behind you than in front, right? Is that what yeah.
I'm on
I
my
know.
back nine is what you're saying.
I'm on my back nine, Eddie. Yeah.
Okay.
You
No
just put
questions,
him
right?
down. You just put him into that category. I was just going legend.
I'm the one with the gray. It's all good.
Anyway, we talked about A and B so far and the changes going on, and there's still some more changes here because now we're in Class C. And in Class C, you've got Hamburg in, and you've got East Aurora out. Two very good programs.
It's really astonishing when you think about the dominance of those programs, and now they've shifted and are moving to different sections. And this is like changes kind of the face of Class C. Would you agree?
Sure does. Absolutely does. And I think really when you look at that, Hamburg has not played these teams in probably 4 years, 3 or 4 years, because we were all in the same, probably the Class B when it was very, every game was a battle. So you were literally playing those teams, and they're going to have to take a little bit of time to just reevaluate and look and see what we have. So I think it'll be very competitive division, Class C. I think we're going to look at, once again, looks like it's going to have to go through Lakeshore and Hamburg, because Lakeshore, I'm not sure, Tim, what they still have coming back. But
I'll write it right off for you because they pretty much, it was shocking. They have pretty much everybody coming back except for Josie John. He went. He was a key cog, but they got Ray Cortez coming back, the junior midfielder who had 69 goals last year. You had Aubrey Tallchief, which we watched him in action in the playoffs.
Beautiful
52
player.
goals. Blaze Becker, a senior attackman, 46 goals. Jaden Kennedy, a senior midfielder, 32 goals, and they have the sophomore goalie coming back, Damian Warrior, who played phenomenal throughout the playoffs.
We loved him last year. We got to give a shout out.
He was great.
He was all smiles. He was so happy for his teammates when they won that game.
And he was a freshman.
He couldn't
last
even
year.
talk about it. He was so happy.
So they won the Class C twice.
That's correct.
Right, and it was always a battle between them and East Aurora. So now East Aurora leaves, and in comes Hamburg. And Hamburg will be interesting is because they lost a lot. If you look at the players, the terrific senior class they lost. You had the Collins twins running around scoring goals. You had Villaveda playing defense, and Custra, the two long poles doing it, and you had
they
Cummings.
were tough.
And you had Cummings. Those are some big pieces to lose, and then you get to come into and have to play and compete at the top with Lakeshore Silver Creek. That's going to be tough. It's going to be.
I think James and Maxwell will put their heads together, and it's a strong, proud, traditional program, and they'll find that next star in Hamburg and develop them.
They start to develop it. And now this is obviously it's a class near and dear to your heart, and I look at now with your team, and they're young.
Extremely young. Youngest I've ever had in 37 years.
Right, and so you've got a couple of key players coming back, Orsini, Scallione, Wagner. You go down this list here. What do we look at? Being that you're here, what do you see coming out of your program this year in this division?
As I said to my son Colin and Coach Liddy, who I coach with, we're going to have to be patient this year, Tim and Jeremy, because that youth movement is going to take a while. They're going to do well. They're going to get better every game, but our strength is going to be on the back end. As you said, Thomas Orsini, Ethan Scallione.
He seems like he's been there forever.
And that was an accident last year. He didn't try out for varsity, and then we struggled. We had a couple injuries, and then we brought him up, and he never came off the field. And
It just
was
seems like
a
it, but
tremendous,
yeah,
dominant player that is just growing into himself. Jason Chow will be another strong backline defender. So that's where we're going to have to build out from. Our goalie, we have two young goalies that are vying, Brady Turton and Leo Lynn. So those players will develop. But Christian Wagner is going to have to pull. He's going to have to score 170 goals because that's what we're missing from our three attackmen. That we're
just letting you know now.
Well, that's what I wanted to go into. You lost
our three attackmen. We lost.
How many goals?
Peter Pachot, that was 160 goals. Peter, and then Caden Cavallari and Ben Ballas were three sophomores that started sophomore year, literally only played a little sophomore year because of COVID year, so they lost that year, and then junior and senior year. So a lot of goals that are missing. Peter and Chris Molnar, another player who had 20 goals, are playing at Trine University in Indiana for one of your former partners in crime, Vinny Lang.
Mr. Lang, the legend himself.
Yes, he
Vincent,
was.
a good veteran, and we love our veterans. And speaking of, you were talking Hamburg, just giving a shout out to Eddie Van Tine and his family, and we always respected him. And Eddie, I saw it. I was just a quick bit for the Hamburg families. I was working the Army camp and I was walking up the hill, and I just had a knee surgery, and this car pulled up next to me, and I just remember this guy looking over and goes, "You want a ride?" And my leg was just, I was shot, and it's a long walk up those Army, beautiful. If you've ever been there, you should go visit and see, just as a part of our country, the Army and West Point. And he goes, "You want a ride?" And he looked a little sore, and it was Ed Van Tine. I'd never met Eddie before, and he pulled over, gave me a ride, and just talking to him about his experiences. But and then Jerry Severino takes it over, and then of course the foundation had been laid down. But I guess one thing you were speaking of when you were talking of the Class C, we were talking numbers in that prior segment.
Sure.
Does that really? How much does that impact compared to A and B? The numbers and everything, the downswing, it really seems to hit Class C and D in some school areas. You feel that at East as well, or the number in pool is tough? I know you've done a great job with your youth program.
You do feel it though. If people don't do the youth programs, you see a significant drop in your program because you have to do that with our sport. It's like no other in that sense. So that's why I'm still, on Thursday nights doing ALA and on Sunday nights doing ALA because
how many years have you done ALA?
1994. So I can't do the math.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of years, but that's that many years of that. How many thousands of kids do you think you've been able to impact doing that?
It's been, it's a labor of love, Murph. You've been part of it. You've taken those trips to.
But you've been there from the start and started it. And
Sure.
those guys, I have guys that I've talked to that are, 40 years old now that are, I was in ALA and Mr. Green, how's he doing? And all the coaches.
That's nice.
And Mr. Abbott and
Sure.
All those guys. I remember Mr. Abbott with the wood stick with all the winds in there. Coach
Starrett.
Starrett.
That's an FM thing, I think.
That is an FM thing. We'll let you go on that, Abbott. We won't take it personal. But we love you, man.
But sticking with Class C now,
Seneca East is a team that you're going to look at.
I was going to say that's one that intrigued me doing some of this homework because they've got some pieces coming back.
They sure do.
And Jimmy doesn't stay down too long. Just a couple of years ago, he had Dolak on the. You had
Monster.
There were battles, and when my son was playing in East Aurora, it was a battle every time. And I think he's on his way back.
He is
now
on
up
his
on
way
that.
back up. I think that defenseman he has,
Osmansky.
is just
very
a
good
dominant player. He dominates whether it be in the defensive end or even in transition, and then he'll find those young kids that have developed over the course of the year, and I experienced it. Perfect example last year. We beat them by 4 during the season, and they roll us in the sectionals by 3 because his players got better through the course of the year and believed. And once you get kids that believe, the sky's the limit. And Jimmy does a great job of getting them to believe in what his mission is and what he wants to get done there. So.
If you look at the standings from last year, and you do a little comparison, obviously East Aurora was out. Lake Shore went 14-0, and then East Aurora was 12-2, and then right there you look at this middle portion between your team, Will South, which
He's got a tremendous goalie coming back, Kubala.
Right, so you've got them that they're going to be right up in that area, and you got West Seneca right there. You're right in the middle of this pack, and then Iroquois was 7-7. This is, to me, you've got 10 teams. So C and D both have 10 teams,
right?
And that can't be easy, coaching against these teams, because any of these teams could do something during a game, and it can change the outcome. And a game you think you might win, you could lose in this type of class right now.
Absolutely. And I think you look at a team like Amherst, who's developed kids, and Coach Henn has been doing it for a long time, all the way back from when he was on our program and is student teaching at Mill Middle School from Cortland. His last choice comes to Western New York. He's been here for 30 years.
He has
so
I saw that on the notes that he was there 30 years.
Yeah, so his program, he's got some nice players.
And you know his coaching is going to be right on that fine knife. You know, he is very good at feeling a team out that first period, scouting almost, to an extreme, and he's prepared, and he gets his players prepared.
Sure. McLaughlin had 6 goals the other day. And Shawnee McLaughlin was
his son. I mean, here you got the alum now coming through, which is fun.
And Kai Fowler is another strong player that will dominate on that team. So every team has those players, and it's the coaches. I think when you look at the coaches in this division, they all have been around a little bit, and they understand what they have to do to have success. And then the young ones, the Star Points, and the Iroquois.
They're going to take their lumps.
Minuto,
they'll take a little lumps, but they're going to build. It's part of the building process.
And they get better by taking those lumps because of their great coaches that they have.
And it's fun and going right down in the start point and looking at Sweet Home. Sweet Home, it being in there all the time. Corey Mitchum, who's the head coach there, has been working with those kids nonstop, all through the fall, all through the winter, and he has complimented you on helping out. You guys had a
joint practice last week.
Yeah,
it was tremendous
beautiful.
Because we all got better because I think he wanted the intensity to see his players to see our intensity, and that it was contagious to them because that elevated their game, and sure enough, it shows in their first game they get a win. I think the other thing is that he's doing all those extra things. He's building the young and from the ground floor up. He's hosting a sixes tournament over the break next week. He's got phenomenal. 8 teams that
he works extremely hard, and he's not afraid to ask questions. He would put out questions. I saw him asking questions out in the National Post to the coaches' discussion board, and you have this type of, and he's very inquisitive, and just the spirit of the kids watching them in the hallways. I can see they're fired up.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited for the Sweet Home kids and where they're headed, and we'll see where this ends up at the end of the season. But they've taken some lumps when Fowler passed away. And we lost John, that everything kind of was in a mess there a little bit. And then Corey has been a steadfast, solid individual who's taken that thing by the reins, and I'm really proud of him.
And that's a lot of credit to you, Murph, in a sense that you made that buffer zone and you facilitated the next generation at Sweet Home.
Yeah,
because if you don't do that, if you don't look at your next person who's going to take it over, what have we done? We haven't really done anything because as I'm in the twilight.
What's your
of my
legacy?
back nine, whatever you want to call it. I have to prepare.
What's your
that
legacy,
for,
Ed? What's your legacy?
Legend. Just keep it a legend.
No.
It's more positive.
No.
When those terms come up, it means we've been there,
Yes,
right?
yeah. Or
It's
just
all
did
good.
it for a long time.
So, being more specific, what hole would that be on the back nine? Would you be like 15?
Well, I hope I'm on 10.
10.
I want to be
You're
on 10 'cause
definitely
I
on
want
10.
another.
I was told the other day I was on 17, so we'll figure it out.
I pay homage to the legend. You break him down. I
Yeah,
understand.
well, it's all really pick on the ones we love.
Well, let's switch on over then, gears to Class D. Because once again, this is another big class with 10 teams. We said C and D both have 10 teams. And technically we say 10. we could discuss Eden in a moment, just so people understand. But East Aurora enters in now. Akron won it last year, 11-0. Salamanca is right behind them at 8-2. Their 2 losses were to Akron. This is going to be an interesting league now with East Aurora coming in, because I think it adds a different dynamic to how this is going to go. And but in the end, you look at Akron's the reigning champ. They're bringing back some high-powered kids. Right? You bring Brayley Abrams as a junior midfielder. He's got 59 goals last year. Now, they did lose. We got to say that. They lost Travis Fry, and he had 71 goals and 43 assists last year.
Incredible. That's just incredible.
He was a player, and he's over at Siena now, ready.
Doing great things.
Doing great things. But they have other players, like Trace Hill is a junior now. They're a little bit on the younger side, Akron, this year.
And Sly Sundown, it will still go through Sly.
I was just going to say, Sly is the leader. Sly is, he had 24 goals last year, but he was the quarterback.
True.
The way they played. And Akron will always be up there at the top. And so you look at them, and you look at, I'll go over to Salamanca next, and Jamie Pierce has got, once again, they're young. They're replacing Austin Maybe, who had 65 goals, and Trey Turner, who had 47 goals.
Very high-powered offense.
Right last year. High-powered and go. So now they're going to have to rely on a junior who had 42 goals and 46 assists last year, and Teoni Galante. Those are not numbers that you start looking at these numbers, and you're sitting there going, this could be the Wild West of the classes, because you don't know how this is all going to go. But you got each of these teams coming in right now. East Aurora comes in now. And Scott's got a senior-laden team in a sense. This is one of those teams where he looks at it and says, "You can do something special here," And it's all led by. It starts with the defense, and Rory O'Brien is playing lights out already. He's one of those guys that any coach would love to have on the team. He's an Army brat, in a sense, and can do that. And so I go down, and you have Noah Asmansky, Max Fryer, all seniors. Cam Dominowski at Longstick, they're all seniors. So that's going to be interesting dynamic with them in Akron and Salamanca to see how that works. And then you go down the list. Depew had a great year last year.
They sure did.
You look at Depew, and they're bringing kids back, and they were excited. And that's one of those programs that's been building now for probably 4 or 5 years.
Correct.
Right, Coach? They slowly been getting it in there. You started seeing kids at the youth level.
And they're having fun, and they're having success. Success breeds that next chapter.
They went 9-8 last year, 7-5 in the conference. And it winds out. Medina took a little bit of a dip. They could come back up. They always get athletes out there. They always have athletes that go and they play. The interesting one is you look at Wilson, Gowanda, Newfane, and Tonawanda. Right, Newfane's new, right? But they're a newer program.
Correct.
Tonawanda's a newer one in a sense. They've been trying to get their footing. All these teams at the bottom could see significant jumps. Not meaning go to the top, but there's enough there at the bottom level that some of these programs there can kind of go up and
can have success
success on it. We played Wilson the other day with Timon as our first game, and we're really young. We're pretty much freshmen, sophomores, a couple of juniors and seniors, but not. And we beat them 9-3. And they were tough. It was not easy. It was a tough one. And so you look at this, and this is where Eden fits in, because they're technically independent, correct?
That is correct.
Well, explain how that works.
What happens is Coach Archibald is trying to grow his game and have a more competitive schedule, I believe. So he each year asks to be independent. So he has to go through the section, cleared with the section, and then what he does is he makes an independent schedule. That schedule then is assessed for seedings because he's a Class D, and we use all 16 games. So whoever he plays, whatever his record is, we use a winning percentage, and that's where he's seeded in the section. So if he plays a more competitive schedule, he might, have more losses, and that would
bring him down.
So he still has the opportunity to play in the sectional tournament because he's a section school, but it's done. His record is done by a winning percentage of all 16 games.
So they factor into to be the 10th team in Class D, even though they're not. And they will play a bunch of the, they'll play certain teams no matter what. They beat up on us last night. They're timing, and they're very young. What we've done, they got a lot of freshmen, sophomores.
Yeah. I think Coach Archibald's son is a freshman on the team.
And they can play though. He's got that program rolling, and they can always come out. They play hard. They're fast.
They move the ball,
and they're disciplined. They don't turn the ball over a lot. So that's another one that you kind of throw into this mix where you're talking at the top portion of it. You got 4 teams that can win this.
That's correct.
This is another one where it's a crapshoot in a sense, but it'll be exciting to watch.
That's right.
To see who was able to play. And I think a key part is, you mentioned that earlier, Coach, who could avoid the injury bug? Because sometimes that nips you, and that's what it gets you, and you can't control that. So who's the next person up? And that's where the depth comes in, as we were talking about, where some programs don't have that yet, and they can't overcome it, where others have plenty. So you're looking at it from that standpoint. But these are 2, Class C and Class D, to me, are going to be 2 very exciting classes to watch in the sport of lacrosse, because I do believe, whereas Lakeshore has been dominant, and they might be in C, there's still other ones that could kind of pop off.
Surprise.
Yeah, that could surprise, which is what you want.
You have a whole new season, and you lose one key cog, who Joyce was a tremendous player, and he made everybody else better around him. So now, who's going to be that person? Yeah. That's the beauty of this game, that they have to figure that out and see who it is, or can they repeat the success?
It's interesting, because he was a leader too.
Sure was.
You watched that, and once again, we had the privilege of doing a couple of the games in the playoffs, Murph and I, and what a wonderful young man as well.
Oh,
a wonderful young man. Yeah, and so these classes, both of them, like I said, are going to be fascinating throughout. Because if you can sit here and tell me what's going to happen, all right, sure, I'll take your money, because you don't know what's going to happen in the end. So why don't we take a break, and when we come back, we'll finish up going through the Monsignor Martin teams and wrap it up here on Western New York Athletics. We thank you for joining us.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses, and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA, with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics. Call our Buffalo office today for an efficient, personal approach for all of your transportation needs.
Sometimes it just isn't your day. We all need a little help from time to time. That's why we're committed to providing safe, quick, and cost-effective care. And we keep it simple. Just walk in. We're here for you. Learn more today.
Do you insure a lot of businesses?
Yes, we do.
How about restaurants?
We got a bunch.
Do you cover property damage?
Yes, we do.
How about my equipment?
Covered.
How about sewer backup?
We got it.
What if my cook gets hurt?
They're covered.
Foodborne illnesses?
Covered.
What if my party tent goes down?
Covered under property damage.
And you say this is all under one policy?
One policy.
When do I pay?
Once a month.
Just one time?
Just one.
Is there anything you don't cover?
What's your record for consecutive questions asked?
31.
Tables. We don't do tables.
Gotta love Buffalo.
For all your insurance questions, call the Wolf at 835-WOLF.
We realize now more than ever is the perfect time to have the perfect house. We're confident we'll find your dream home. Howard Hanna. Home happens here.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
Do you insure a lot of businesses?
Yes, we do.
How about restaurants?
We got a bunch.
Do you cover property damage?
Yes, we do.
How about my equipment?
Covered.
How about sewer backup?
We got it.
What if my cook gets hurt?
They're covered.
Foodborne illnesses?
Covered.
What if my party tent goes down?
Covered under property damage.
And you say this is all under one policy?
One policy.
When do I pay?
Once a month.
Just one time?
Just one.
Is there anything you don't cover?
What's your record for consecutive questions asked?
31.
Tables. We don't do tables.
Gotta love Buffalo.
For all your insurance questions, call the Wolf at 835-WOLF.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics. Call our Buffalo office today for an efficient, personal approach for all of your transportation needs.
I love being home.
There's nothing better than owning the perfect house to come home to. You've earned it, and we'll make it happen. Our local real estate experts and in-house team of financial professionals make buying or selling your home simple. Howard Hanna. Home happens here.
I love being home.
Athletics Boys Lacrosse Preview. I'm Tim Kenny, joined by Jeremy Murphy and Ed Greenway as we're going through these. And now we're going to go take a look a little bit now at Monsignor Martin. We've gone through class A through D. Now let's take a look there. And when we start, you got to say right off the bat, you got St. Joe's sitting at the top. They won it the past, I don't know, a bunch of years. Yeah. Big battle they had with Nichols last year. But they're returning some key players back. Number one is Tyler Smart, who is kind of the utility man doing everything. He's going to Air Force.
Difference maker.
And he's strong, and he's a leader. And you look at, you tie him up with Evan Gallo, who's the other leader in goal in the back. You got 2 kids right off the bat going Division I. That he's got coming back right off. They've already committed. Gallo's committed to St. Bonaventure, Smart's to Air Force. And then you got a player like Joaquin Gatt, who is as crafty as they come. I remember I did a couple of their games as well, and he made some great moves. This arguably could be St. Joe's most talented team as a group right now, and that's always lends challenges, though, because you don't know the psychology of do they think they're too good or not. So that's going to be a challenge at St. Joe's to make sure it holds on to they're able to do that. And then you kind of got the pack. You look at it in kind of 3 stages, Coach, and you never want to degrade any team, but there's a reality with talent right now, and that next level is going to be Nichols and Canisius.
True.
You know, Nichols was right up there. They lost their big defenseman. He went to Johns Hopkins to go play. You know, they've lost him, but they do have the Hamdani twins, which impressed us last year during the playoff. They went out there. They played as hard as and just were quick and going.
Very great understanding of the game. Tremendous lacrosse IQ, both of them.
Yeah, and it was a play, and they gave St. Joe's a battle at that for the championship game at Canisius. So you look at those two. You got those 2 teams that could be vying for it again. Canisius brings back a number of kids right now. They graduated some, but they still have that. Now they got a new coach.
They do have a new coach.
You want to talk about?
Well, it's 2 new coaches, right?
Yes.
Coach White
is
going to be probably working on with the defense, just because of his strength. He was a Lemoyne goalie, correct? Coach
I believe so. Yes.
Won a national championship against Merciers, as a matter of fact, I think. And then the other coach.
I'm trying to remember who else they brought in, but they have 2. It's a new regime in there, a new era in a sense for Canisius
Which
lacrosse.
will anytime you get a new coach, they come with new energy, and Coach White's going to make that happen along with his partner. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but they have enough of a foundation to definitely compete in every game, and then maybe steal one from St. Joe's.
Yeah, you never know.
There's something about the rivalry games, and and the brotherhood there.
They played them close
played-
every game
Correct.
last year. Canisius did, so it wasn't like it was, and they had talent, and they bring a couple kids back. Canisius, Casey LaForce, who's been playing for years. You think about it, and it's interesting. You mentioned White. He's one of those guys who grew the game early on. And I know, being a Timon from the South Buffalo side, he was able to get that going back in the day with the counterfields, and he got them moving.
Very dedicated.
And that,
coach.
and they were able to do that. So Canisius is in a sense a wild card in my mind right now. They have a talent. It's just a matter of can they get
Puzzle
up
it
and move.
together. Yeah,
sure.
And then you look at St. Mary's, who has been steadily building their program. It's been a steady climb for them.
Fred White has done a nice job.
He's done a really good job with that, and another one who has helped at the youth level to get kids involved to play. And to try and do that. Always Sunny is that his program, and it's interesting. You see that a little bit more at the privates, obviously. I'm at Timon, and we're rebuilding. We brought in Drew Billica, and he's been a youth coach with that. And you bring, when I was looking at something for our coach, what are they looking for? It wasn't so much you bring up youth kids so they could come to Timon. It's how do you develop kids? Because it's kind of the same thing. You don't go out there and recruit. Our coaches are told there's no recruiting. Now, if a kid calls and wants to talk, that's a different ballgame. But they're not going to do that unless you have a coach that's actually going to help develop them.
Sure.
And so that's at
And
Timon.
Drew has all those tangibles
He does.
that bring the best out of kids.
And we're young, and I know that. 'Cause I could give you that one in the sense that there's a lot of freshmen and sophomores. One of our best players is a freshman, Charlie Clifford. We got to kind of make him eat a lot of steak and get some meat on his bones, but he's very skilled. So how they'll do how St. Mary's and Timon will do against the top three, it's hard to tell. I don't know if this is the year for them to clip anybody off at this moment. I think in the stages of where they're going. But I think in Monsignor Martin, these three teams, it's going to be a battle up there. But as we said, St. Joe's has that talent. And now the question comes to, can the talent be managed? And can the expectations not put too much pressure on these kids? Because that's when it becomes not fun.
Sure. And I think with Coach Hudecki, he's already made it an extensive schedule that will challenge them.
Yes.
And you have to do that. When you have that kind of talent, you can't just come in and play those cupcakes and then think that that's going to transfer later on when you really need it. So I think he's done a good job of making sure that he's taking the teams out of the section to do that, because that's what he's created with his program.
He's done that. And what's interesting now is with Monsignor Martin, they're going to be hosting the state championships this year at St. Joe's. It has changed.
That'll be interesting, actually. It'll be fun to see that.
It caused a little bit of an issue with the schedule, because normally we finish up here a week later than the Catholic schools down low. And if they're coming up here, they don't want to sit around a week. So Monsignor Martin kind of condensed the schedule a little bit.
What were the challenges with that? That must have been actually kind of tough for athletic directors and trying to puzzle that together. You're cutting a whole week out.
Yeah, it was not easy. It was not easy in a sense, because it bumped everything back, which then affected out of conference to host it. Now, the good news is there's a state championship coming back up here. Bad news is you got to deal with a little bit of a shortened week, and it made it harder to schedule. I could say from a timing standpoint, it was hard to schedule some of these games to put them in.
Compact the whole season. Our season is compact to begin with.
Yeah, and now you compact it even more. Right. But it's interesting that we will have a state championship game up here. So you'll probably see a team like a St. Anthony's.
I want to go back to St. Joe's. Tyler Smart and those players there. Tyler had endured an injury. We were playing them when he was back at was it West Seneca West? I think they
West
were
Seneca East.
East, excuse me. And long story short, here he is outside. We are shooting balls. He's playing. He can't play, and here he is chasing balls on the back fence and putting them back out there. The consummate, kind of leader you had mentioned before. And Dad, we've known Dad, and Matt Smart, Penn Yan, proud.
Penn Yan legend.
Yeah, right. Ringing the bell.
And
Penn Yan.
Via Canisius.
That's right. Yep, Canisius, Western New York. He's working at Williamsville and Casey Middle. And but hats off to Amy and Matt and Tyler going off to Air Force and representing Western New York on that level of the game. And Air Force is really showing. They've got some talent. They've been playing Division I. We've watched them kind of fluctuate and almost into that top 20, in and out a little bit. So they're in that top 30 for sure in the country. So hats off to Tyler. A great character, great representative of us. And
he is a wonderful. He's a wonderful young man as well. And we kind of run into a lot of them in this sport, and it's great because it does build a character that it has a respect factor that these kids come with, and you see that with a number of these kids. There's times where teams don't have that, and you could tell.
Yes.
It's how they operate on the field. And now, when you see you have good character kids, and mind you, Monsignor Martin, while it's private, it does produce, you've got a significant number of high caliber kids going to play college. And to me, that's great for the game. You just don't want to see it become imbalanced across the whole region, and I don't think it will, because I think if we recover like we talked about at the beginning of this show, there's going to be plenty of kids wanting to play.
Sure.
You see it, and it happens. It happens everywhere. When I was in Massachusetts, it was the same thing. It was in Western Mass. Lacrosse was not huge, believe it or not. You had UMass there, obviously, but you had Longmeadow. You always knew Longmeadow was going to be the one that was there, and then it was just a bunch of everybody else.
Deerfield
and you had the prep schools with different ballgame, obviously. But now it's become more of it's a staple, and sports like baseball got hit a little bit in a sense, because kids stopped playing baseball because they were bored, and then they did it. And then baseball had to kind of try to reinvent themselves at the young level. I think the same thing's going to happen here with lacrosse. And you mentioned the sixes. That could be another way that kicks something into gear. But from Monsignor Martin's side, it's going to be fascinating to see if St. Joe's could do their potential
win that,
and see if you can go and get to that state championship. Because we were talking about it, Coach, and trying to think, me being at Timon, I know Timon won a state championship. How many state championships have come out of Western New York?
That would be the only one.
That would be the only one,
Orchard
correct?
Park had
they were close.
Times,
Yeah, they were
very,
close
very
right
close.
there.
They lost to Jenny by goal.
Yeah.
But that is the only state
That is it. So I think that's going to be the next reiteration.
Did Hamburg
of this.
get in there, Class B's, I think it was at one point? Hamburg got close one year.
They lost to Carthage.
Under was Jerry Severino.
Correct.
That's right. And but they've gotten up there. They've worked.
Right.
We've chiseled our way into that time. How many times, like in the final 8, final 4, ish? The teams that have been there. We've been there.
There's been a number of them.
Yeah,
sure. You have had Lancaster, Akron last year. You had
East
Orchard
Aurora
Park,
a couple
East
years ago.
Aurora, West Seneca East, Hamburg numerous times. So there have been some teams that have journeyed on and have represented us very well. So it's just a matter of continuing to grow the game, and there will be, it's hit or miss too. Let's not kid ourselves. When you get a class that has bought in, and you have those 7 or 8 kids that do the extra things, and this is their number one sport, that gives you the opportunity to bring along another 10 of their buddies, and then the rest is.
That's the biggest challenge, isn't it? Is to get that core group of
very much
kids that can infect the other ones.
Correct.
To play, and then your job as the coach is to
facilitate and
to get them going, but also utilize that momentum for the other ones. And it's interesting, and you're going to see that, I think, throughout Monsignor Martin right now. I think there is going to be a little revitalization. You've got new coach at Timon, second-year coach at Nichols, right? At Berks, this is his second year. New coaches at Canisius. You've got, and the at St. Mary's, they're still a couple of years in. So Prudecki is the elder statesman right now, and he'll remind you the lumps he took when he took over that program, and we're getting beaten up by the Canisiuses and the Nichols for a while. It's the same thing as in a public school. You just have to have a vision and go forward with it. So the Monsignor Martin will be very interesting this year. Is anyone can they challenge the talent that St. Joe's has, but can St. Joe's keep their focus and keep going?
Sure.
Well, Ed, we appreciate you coming in today. It's been great chatting with you, and I know you've been busting your chops in the fall and winter to prepare, get our season ready, and we're excited. There's no better time of the year than when that snow starts to go away and the sun comes up a little lighter, longer
Stays up
periods
a
of
little
day,
longer.
and yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So those
Thank
trees
you
will
for
be
the
budding
opportunity.
soon, but
They
we
will.
appreciate you coming in and spending time with us today.
Yeah,
and-
it was great. I mean, listen, to have someone, and I'm not going to say legend, but I will, that knows all this background too, and it knows the history of this sport in Western New York, and the excitement we have every year. Coming into this, it's a great feeling, and not having any kids in high school anymore playing, I still get excited about it. Granted, I'm at timing, but it's not that. I'll go and stop at Easter Row on the way home, and if they're playing a game, I'll just pop over because it's great to go watch, and I think this season is going to lend up to it because I think outside of A, which has the 3 teams, it's going to be an interesting battle throughout, and can certain teams take the teams that have been sitting at the top, take them down? There's some possibilities, but we'll wait and see.
And that is the beauty of the beginning of a season.
It
That
is. It's
you have a whole new group of kids, and you mold them, and let's see what we got, and let the magic happen.
Well, we thank you. We thank you for joining us, and we thank you all for watching. Look forward to myself and my partner Murph doing a number of games this year, so we're just picking the schedule now. Stay tuned. We'll be going on there, and you never know. We'll be walking around. You see us, stop, say hello. Have a great day, and thank you for watching.
All right, welcome in everyone to the 2023 Girls Lacrosse Season Preview Show. Alongside me is Amber Hill, who officiates the girls' game and knows all the rules to help me through a game and played in college. And coach from Williamsville East, Emily Peters, who also played collegiately. Ladies, welcome to the 2023 season. It did start a little bit, but we're here to preview the season. All right, so first of all, the first question is, you both ready for another lacrosse season?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited. I know all the girls are excited too.
Yeah, and I'm ready to run up and down on the field and not get subbed in or out.
And get back in the broadcast booth with me, right?
Absolutely.
I'll make sure I get your name right in the first game. So let's talk about some key returning players and players who may have a breakout 2023 season. Then we can go into each class, then we, what we should expect in 2023, and some questions that we discussed in our production meeting. That's how classy we are here. So first team All Western New York returnees, we'll start with Tristan Davis from Niagara Wheatfield. She had a dominant junior season last year. She led 6-6 in scoring at 80 goals, had 97 points, helped the Falcons lead to the Section 6 Class B semifinal, also scored her 100th career goal as a junior. Will play Lax in Brockport. Talk about her as a player and what she brings to her team, ladies.
Well, this past Saturday when Wheatfield had their scrimmage, I was able to see Tristan on the field, and I do got to say I have seen this kid grow exponentially, from a couple years ago when I remember I'd have to prep myself going to Wheatfield games only because she would slash everybody in the head. And I'd have to yellow card. She's very familiar. And I have told her several times, hey, calm down. She is a monster athlete, and she is fearless. She's running around the 8, running through the 8, and she'll just release, and now as she's a senior, you can see the maturity has definitely come. She's not slashing anybody in the face to get the ball back, and she's taking that extra split second to release so there's not any type of dangerous propel. She's not hitting anybody. She's become an all-around great player.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Amber. I know Tristan came into travel lacrosse, and whatever her coach needed, she did. I know that Tristan played an entire travel season in goal. Tristan is really awesome. She's a hard worker. She deserves every accolade she's gotten. I know she used to do wrestling. That just kind of embodies what she does as an athlete. So
yeah, she's a beast.
And then Ava Kreutzer, Lancaster, she was a sophomore in 2021. She was the Western New York third team and jumped to first team as a junior. So she made a big jump, scoring 54 goals, but also the 34 assists, but 99 draws, and how big that is to help your team, to maintain possession. The Legends got to the Class A finals appearance last year. She's going to Youngstown State. The goals are big, but also helping your teammates score goals too. Talk about how big that is to help your teammates get, on the scoreboard with the 34 helpers.
Yeah, Ava is definitely a playmaker. She's got the height. She's got the work ethic. I know she spends hours outside on the rebounder. Her hands are great, and like you said, she's always looking to set up her teammates. So she's more than able to go to net, both hands strong, and get a goal for her team. But sometimes you see her take that step back and set her teammates up for success too. So she's dominant on the offensive end, has the lacrosse IQ to succeed, and then her height is just absolutely amazing on the draw.
And Amber, 99 draws. Talk about how big that is.
I mean, that's huge. And I believe Ava's, six?
She's like 6'1".
6'1", 6'2".
Yeah.
She's very tall and athletic, and I mean her wingspan is incredible. I mean, you see her. I mean, it's not even, other kids don't even come close.
Yeah.
But echoing just off what Emily said, watching her play on the field, she takes that extra second to step back, and her lacrosse, you can see it processing, and she always sets up her teammates. And that's what I like when I watch her play, is she's very smart with the ball, and she does like to keep possession. So those 99 draws, like we talked about in the production meeting, she wins them, and then she also keeps possession to go down in a transition in their offensive 30.
Very
So
selfless.
yes, she's a great player.
And then moving on, Lily Kozowski from Grand Island. She's a Canisius College signee, finished 8th in Section 6 with 63 goals. Another player, all these girls last year got to their 100th career goal, coming off a season in which the Vikings got their first league championship, Section 6 title, 118 goals and counting. Grand Island had a great year last year. How do they take that next step to get back there, and how is she going to continue to have a great season?
Lily is a little dynamite on the crease. She's a low attacker. She's small. She's quick. Her stick is amazing. So I think that Grand Island, to get back to last year, they have some great players too. Juliet Chadma is also on that team. She's an amazing player too as a midfielder. I think that if Lily and Chad can really pair up on Grand Island and kind of get on a roll, you're going to see success for Grand Island this year too.
Yeah, Lily's another player that's fearless that I love to watch play, because she just dives in. She'll drive. But you can also see, again, with these upper-level players, you can see the processing happen on the field, which is good for experienced officials, because you can see it in their eyes, and now you have to move in position, because now you can see something's about to happen. But Lily's great, like you said, around the crease, and she really sets up her teammates, and she is very capable, obviously, of scoring.
Absolutely. So then we got Chloe Luther from Gowanda. All right, so she was a lone sophomore on the All-West New York first team last season. And it just shows you how good you have to be a sophomore, to be playing varsity. I was a freshman when I was playing at St. Francis. I was playing varsity. By the time they were senior, they just hit that next level. But how crazy is it that a sophomore not only played varsity, but had an outstanding year and makes All-West New York? I mean, is the sky the limit for her as a junior?
Yeah. I had Chloe on the Winnie Rock team last year for the Nationals, and it's honestly an honor to coach her. She is, her personality as an athlete is just so coachable, and I think that's why she has the success that she has. She's definitely an athlete. Her work ethic is there, but it's like, as a coach, because her skills are already there, you look at her and say, this is what you need to do to get better, and it's immediate. Like, the flip is there. She's going to take what you say and run with it. And, the improvement is, on the spot. So I think that, Chloe's amazing. She's great.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about athletes that put that extra work in, I believe she plays for Monster out of Rochester, Monster Elite, and she's seeing that next level competition by going to, the Mid-Atlantic and all the tournaments that they take their club teams to, and playing against, Triple H, Philly, and Long Island Yellow Jackets. And so when you're seeing that level of competition and competing against it, and then bringing it back to Section 6, that's how you make the game grow, but that's how you grow individually as a player, because you've seen what kids your age are capable of. You got to see it to believe it. So.
Yeah, her stats are incredible. I mean, she scored 65 goals last year, and as a sophomore, and she's already reached that 100th mark. I mean, some of these girls did it in their junior year, and it shows how good she was as a freshman as well. And she's got 148 already, and she's committed to Jacksonville University in college already for where she's at. And it's going to be interesting to see how she continues to improve, and she wants to improve. And a lot of these girls, that's what you see. They want to get better each year because they know what they have to do to get better and where they want to end up, going.
Yeah. I mean, all these girls you're naming, they do. So, like you said, like Amber was saying, which is like a huge piece in it. They play travel together, whether it's Empress or a couple of them go out to Rochester to Monster. But those are the girls that you're all naming, like all the girls who have seen that high level competition and see what kids their age are capable of, and then they come back, and that's why they dominate. Like,
And a lot of these girls compete with each other in other leagues too, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the experience, the competition. They're always getting reps, right? And that makes them better
Quality
too.
reps, yeah.
Quality
Yes,
reps,
quality reps.
because they're not just it's not just walking down the street. It's walking down the street, then running down the street, then biking down the street, and it's always doing something a bit more. So then Ellie Ridge from Clarence, she's a defender on this list. All right, she helped the Clarence Red Devils to their first final section championships since 2023. 2003. We are in 2023. Made it to the Class A state semifinal, Section 6. So she's got 40 cause turnovers, 12th in ground balls with 53, playing field hockey at American University. So a defender on this list. What are your thoughts?
So I had her on the Winnie Rock national team last year. Before that, I had never really heard of her. I didn't really pay attention to her. I hadn't really heard of her before. She is fantastic on defense, and it comes from her athletic background of how good she is at field hockey. She just has that athletic mindset. Yeah, she's a dynamo on defense. You can't really get past her. She's a brick wall. She's fast in transition. Her eyes are up. She's really good. So she's over at my sister's team for Clarence. She's a huge part in their section title last year, for sure.
Yeah, and I think coming from an officiating standpoint, especially in this area, when you see a good quality defender, you take notes because you don't really see that.
Yeah.
Again, besides goalies, the forgotten position, I feel like defense is next, right?
Yeah.
The focus is all on the offensive midfield and the offense in general. And so, like I said, when you see a good quality defender that knows how to take step downs and push out, you really take note of that, and good for her for being, and I ref that game, that Section A, and she was a complete standout.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, the athleticism and playing different sports is key.
When you have a defender like her, about how good she is, does she make other defenders on the team better because they're maybe picking up some of her game because they're looking at a player who does really well defensively and they can learn from her? So does that make your whole defense better with the players on the field?
I think it's almost inspiring to younger girls when they see someone on their defense stand out, right? Like they're getting recognition for playing defense because, like Amber said, the position of defense in women's lacrosse is so forgotten about, right? Because you don't get the stats on it. You'll get a ground ball here or there.
Cause turnover,
yeah. Right? Those are your stats. But to see your teammate get those that recognition for that hard work, right? Defense is just like a grind. So I think it helps the other girls be like, okay, this position's actually awesome. I wanna grind, I wanna do it, I wanna do the grunt work so that my team can succeed for sure.
Right, and having a veteran defender on that can show you how to slide, how to move your hips, and really get that defensive unit to function as a unit is so important and critical to the winning success of the team itself. Defense wins championships.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Now,
Yeah.
they didn't win the state championship, but
Right.
there's no shame
they were
in getting
there.
to a state
They were
semifinal.
getting up there, yeah.
Because there's a lot of girls that would love to have that opportunity. And that's really all these girls want, right? Giving you an opportunity to, to get there. Natalie Myslinski, she's a two-time first-teamer, also named to the U.S. Lacrosse All-American team last spring, coming off a season where she scored 59 goals, 30 helpers. She's a University of Colorado signee, was the All-Western Co-Player of the Year. Let's talk about her for a second. What are your thoughts on her?
Nat Myslinski has always been on the radar. Her dad, Tim Myslinski, is a huge coach in the area for women's lacrosse, and I think he's gotten into it because of Nat. So he runs those MISE clinics or whatever that the higher level girls go to get better. They get those quality reps there, so that's really great. And I know that Nat is there every time he runs does Monster in Rochester, is doing all the work behind the scenes. So what you're seeing now, her accolades, her goal scoring, how awesome she is, how great she is just a testament to her hard work. She always has her stick in her hand. She's always doing stuff to get better. So, and her dad is a huge push for that too. So.
Yeah, I think personal experience wise, my daughter Jordan is at Loomis Chaffee in Connecticut. I think it really does not just depend on the individual themselves, but like the parent, right? And like, what is your atmosphere at home? Like, if you personally don't have the push, do you have that support there to give you that little extra oomph? Because again, most of these players that we're talking about do the travel, get those extra reps. And again, they get to go out there and see higher level competition than what they're going to see in Section 6. So, again, Nat playing Monster in Rochester is so crucial to her success because she gets to see, again, what kids her age are capable of. And bring that back and continue to practice that. Like, I saw so-and-so on this team during this game do that. And it's a culture. It's a culture thing, right? So being able to go play travel lacrosse and being able to afford that opportunity and have the time and the space to go do that is so huge for all of these players. And you see it, there's a very wide spectrum of that one's definitely a travel. Like, I don't know where they play, but that one's definitely a travel player. And then this one, not so much, and that's unfortunate. And when we're trying to grow the game here, to bring all of these girls need to be involved in getting those extra reps during summer and fall and winter. But yeah, Nat puts the work in, like she said. It's great.
Last on this list is Caroline Baldwin. She is a junior, two-time All-Catholic first-team selection for the Gators. 52 goals last year. She also reached 100, a milestone that a lot of these girls in this list hit. 119 goals. Will be going to Duquesne. We saw a little bit of her last year in the Monsignor Martin playoffs. This is a girl, obviously, she put up the goals. We've seen it. What makes this game so easy for her and for her team? They had a lot of success last year.
So I don't think that it comes easy to Caroline. So I
looks like it.
Yeah, I originally pulled her up as an 8th grader over at East Aurora that's where I first started coaching. And then she went to Nardin when she got into high school, and she's over there with Casey Thurr, the Nardin coach. Caroline's also she did Empress, and then she moved to Monster in Rochester for travel. I think her size is, I think she has like a chip on her shoulder. She knows that it's a little bit harder for her to succeed in the sport, so she's always had like a chip on her shoulder. Like, I know I'm tiny, I know I'm small, but again, she's one of those girls who just grinds. I've never seen Caroline complain. I've never seen Caroline ever say she doesn't want to do something. It's always like, okay, how can I get better? Coach, how is my game? How do I do this? How do I do this? And I know for Coach Thurr over at Nardin, she's a huge leader on her team because she comes from that travel background and she knows the sport so well. So she's kind of like a coach's dream as an athlete. So,
yeah, I think that what you touched on, Emily, is those players that are always willing to get better and to accept constructive criticism from their coaches and possibly from their teammates, like, hey, you didn't hit that slide, or I was open and you're not seeing me, like, is it my angle? Is, just being able to have that constructive criticism and open communication with their coaches and with their teammates is so important. And when you have those players that will go to the coaches and be open with them and willing to accept it is huge. And that's a part of being that successful player.
So before we take our first break, let's talk about 3 players. They didn't make the first team last year, but players to watch out. Maria Salvo from Sacred Heart, Lily Rauch, who played for Buff Sem last year, and Bryn Hall from Eden. All these girls, they had a really good season. What are your expectations? A couple of them, of how they take the next step to get on this list that we just talked about.
I think you're going to be talking about Lily a lot in this session next year.
Yeah.
Lily is awesome. She plays on the 2025 team for Empress. Again, she's just, I know she did off season in summer with Courtney McClay, who's over at Stony Brook for us now. Lily is just, again, every time she does a rep, she comes up, Coach, what can I do better, right? So she's just one of those girls who puts in the extra work, like all these other girls in the off season. So she does travel, and then on top of that, she'll do the MICE clinics that we talked about before, and then on top of that, she'll do one-on-one sessions with one of the best lacrosse players to come out of the area. So she's always looking for that extra opportunity at, like, how can I bring my game to the next level? So Lily is a huge standout in this area now, coming up.
Yeah, and I think those 3 girls, again, they're on that watch list because they're putting the work in. They're going to these clinics. They're getting individualized instruction from, players that we have sent to college from this area that are willing to come back and help. And it's a grind, right? Like if you don't put that work in and you give yourself excuses or you're just being lazy about it, you're not going to make that list. So I'm really excited to see what those players bring and being able to talk about them next year.
Yeah.
When we come back on the 2023 Girls Lacrosse season preview show, we'll talk about the 4 conferences and what we expect from the teams. Obviously, what happened last year is not a guarantee that it'll happen this year. We'll go over that, and we'll do some rapid-fire questions at the end. So we'll be right back on WNMI Athletics.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA, with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics. Call our Buffalo office today for an efficient, personal approach for all of your transportation needs.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the 2023 Girls Lacrosse Season Preview Show. Amber Hill, Emily Peters from Williamsville East, correct? Yep. I'm always afraid I'm going to say the wrong Williamsville school. And we had a soccer game like 2 years ago, and I said the wrong Williams school on air, and a parent heard that, and they were upset. And it was like, I'm sorry, this is my 4th soccer game of the day. I apologize. This is not like I'm, trying to, upset you.
I don't think any of my parents are going to come after you, so it's fine.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
At least you're in the right district. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So, girls and ladies, I should say ladies. I apologize. Let's talk about Conference 1, okay? We talked about in our meeting the success you had last year won't guarantee the success we had this year. Players leave, and it's hard. Sometimes things change. But in Conference 1, this is the Orchard Park, Frontier, Clarence, Eden, Grand Island, Gowanda, Williamsville East, Lancaster. Orchard Park is up to 3-0, Frontier 2-0, Clarence 2-0 as well. What do we expect from Conference 1? We'll start with you, Emily.
Yeah, Conference 1 is kind of all over the place right now. So I know for my team personally, we lost 10 starters last year.
Yeah.
So this year for us is just kind of like a building year and getting those younger girls on track with our program expectations. But in this first week, we kind of saw some upsets with Grand Island, Hamburg, Frontier. So I think that in Lancaster, honestly Conference 1, it's gonna be very interesting. So I'm kind of excited to see what teams can come out on top this year. I know that Grand Island has those players like we talked about before, like Lily and Juliet Chadma, that we're looking for a lot. Clarence has Nat Mislinski. Orchard Park is going to be fantastic this year if you look at their up-and-coming roster. So I'm excited. It's going to be some great lacrosse. I don't know if there's a clear, dominant team right now. So.
Yeah, and I know Fortucci always has Orchard Park playing year-round, and, trying to get his players to, if they're not already traveling with their, respective travel teams, he puts in a team somewhere that's Orchard Park specific just so that they can get touches. Going down the list, your sister Kat at Clarence, great coach, great program, very history storied program. I grew up playing at Wheatfield, and looking at this list, we would play, Lancaster, Clarence, Orchard Park, because those were the only other teams that had lacrosse. So I'm used to those schools being good. In saying that, I feel like Grand Island came out of nowhere in the past couple years. They're, past couple years, I remember reffing them, and I'm like, oh, well, good. I'm glad that they have a program that's, great. And then it was like I was not expecting them to be as good as they were then, and now where they're at with their coaching staff and their players and the development, it's insane. So I have to say from an officiating standpoint, personally, and I don't know how other refs, this is just disclaimer, just me personally, playing at the levels that I have played at, I love watching, playing, officiating great lacrosse. And so I get excited when I have these schools on my arbiter, on my schedule, and they're easier to officiate because they're skilled and they know the game so well. And watching these girls, you know, I'm watching them from their freshman year on up and watching them flower and unfold and become like, you know, the butterflies that they're supposed to be, and seeing them mature on the field is so awesome. So Conference 1, I'm excited to see who comes out on top because it's always a bloodfest, I feel like.
Emily, is there a surprise team that we should be looking out for, like last year with Great Island, that could come out of the woodworks and shock everyone?
I think so. I also coached the 2024 team over at Empress, the travel team in the area. And what we do is before the season is we kind of get a layout of how many of our travel girls are on each team, right? And that is almost always a predictor of how well that team's going to do, right? How many travel girls do they have on their team? So we absorbed the Orchard Park players from their travel team, which was a fantastic addition for Empress because they're great. Personally, if I had to say like who are we to look out for this year, I would say Orchard Park. I think that their roster is full of travel girls. I think that their roster is full of grinders and hard workers. I think that Clarence is going to have a run for their money for Conference 1 with Orchard Park for sure.
And then let's move on to Conference 2. This has the Hamburg Bulldogs, Lewiston Porter, East Shore, Amherst, and then Williamsville North, West Seneca West, Niagara, Wheatfield. And Amber, we'll start with you. Thoughts on the Conference 2 and early on here?
Well, Conference 2 is also, you know, it's gonna be a battle. You know, Hamburg, again, another storied program that's always had great lacrosse. The coaching staff at Lewiston Porter is working on turning that program around. They've had a lot of good players that have come out of there, and their bench is only getting deeper. You know, you have Niagara Wheatfield, Corey Turner, who, you know, not only turning the culture around of that program, but really trying to like breed success and put the positive mindsets right into his players. And you can see that on and off the field there. And Amherst, of course, you know, another storied history program that has been successful. Looking at Conference 2, I think you're going to see Hamburg and Wheatfield dueling it out. But then again, you know, West Seneca West, they played this past week. Was that the upset?
No, Hamburg was the upset. Hamburg beat Lancaster. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, no, I think you're going to see Niagara Wheatfield and Hamburg duel it out for this conference.
And then we'll move on to Conference 3, North Tonawanda, Lakeshore, Williamsville South, Salamanca, Star Point, Iroquois, West Seneca East. I believe I saw Star Point was in their second year, right?
Yeah.
That
sounds about right.
That's good for them, you know, growing a program. All right, so thoughts on Conference 3 with who's listed in there?
So I think that Will South, again, looking at their travel players and the girls that play off season, Will South is going to come in absolutely hot. Like their program is young, but their girls are kind of seasoned in the sport. I think that Will South is even going to give teams in Conference 2 and Conference 1 a run for their money. So I have Will South all day.
Yeah, no, I'm going to have to agree with you. Yeah. I believe that my stepdaughter plays for Empress, and you know, so I occasionally will look at all the Empress pictures and stuff that you guys post. You guys do an awesome job. So I believe you guys have like 5 to 7 players.
Yeah,
on Will South.
Yeah.
Will South, yeah. So I'm gonna have to agree with Emily on this again. With the amount of touches that you're seeing in the off season is directly going to translate into your game. And looking at the other teams in Conference 3, I don't think they have a lot of travel players. So yeah, Will South all day for Conference 3.
And let's move on to Conference 4. Niagara Falls, Sweet Home, Newfane, Springville, Depew, Lockport, and Kenmore round out Conference number 4. What do we expect from Conference number 4 this year?
So Niagara Falls has Colette Printup. She's awesome. She, again, is a travel player for Monster. She is a hard worker. I worked with her one-on-one. I think Niagara Falls is going to do pretty great with Colette in the midfield for them. Lockport has kind of a dynamic midfielder, Reese Robleski. She's a standout all around, so I think that those two teams are going to be pretty successful with those girls.
And Amber?
I'm going to wholeheartedly agree with Emily. I did just ref the Sweet Home and Newfane game yesterday. Sweet Home came out on top. Sweet Home has, and I will never forget this name because I thought it was a nickname, but it's her real name is Kilbasa. That's her real last
Making me
name.
hungry over here.
I know.
I had to eat
They kept
breakfast.
saying Kilbasa, and I was maybe like looking for a girl in a tight jersey or something. Sorry, I guess I only get that reference. Anyway, no, she had a couple goals, definitely a hat trick, maybe 4 or 5. She did great. And again, looking at Conference 4, I'm not seeing a lot of travel players on those teams. So for those of you players that are listening, that are watching this, I think you've heard Emily and I reference travel teams quite frequently, and each time that we speak, if you can talk your parents into playing for Empress or playing for Monster, I think it's very important that you get those extra touches in. And I know Empress does a great job with running. You have your travel teams, but you have like separate like touch clinics and like, so you don't necessarily have to make the travel team and travel to Massachusetts and Maryland. They have a side program that you can definitely participate in and get those extra touches in. Again, Niagara Falls, we saw Colette had 7 or 8 goals in one game, and I want to say, I can't remember who they played, but it was like 10-9. They won 10-9. It might have been over Sweet Home. And Colette had 7 or 8 of those goals. Yeah. So, again, travel, and getting those extra touches in is not just going to be beneficial to you, but to the success of your team.
Yeah, and Empress Run, so I know I sing Empress praises a lot, but they offer a lot to the area when it comes to the women's game. I know that the Hot Shots is now kind of run through them. Impact Lacrosse is new. We run clinics through just like training sessions, right? Getting the touches, that it's open to everybody. It's kind of a limited sign up, but again, it's run by me and one of the dads of Courtney McClay over at Stony Brook, and then Scott also, who runs Empress, helps out with that too. So it's like there are so many opportunities that of people in the area that we want to provide for the girls, and the girls that are coming to those opportunities and making sure that they're there, signing up for those things. That's who we're talking about today, right? So it is really important to get those extra touches for sure.
All right, when we come back, we'll continue the further discussion on the 2023 Girls High School Lacrosse preview show on WM Athletics.
Does he do car? Forget about it. How about home? Forget about it. Does he get good rates? Forget about it. And you're saying there's no problem too big for this guy? Forget about it. Paul, this is Johnny, the guy we've been talking about. Johnny, this is Paul Wolf.
Mr. Wolf, it's nice to meet you. Thank you for the invite.
Not a problem. It's Paul, not Mr. Wolf.
Oh, sorry, Paul.
Johnny, forget about it. For all your insurance needs, call 835-WOLF. And...
Avoiding care can lead to worse problems. Don't delay care. We're here for you.
When you're ready to buy a home, start your search at howardhanna.com. You'll be the first to see new listings, find similar properties, and connect with a local Howard Hanna agent. Get started today at howardhanna.com.
Oh my God, he's the best.
All right, welcome back to the show on WM Athletics. This is the 2023 Girls High School Lacrosse preview show for the season. Season did start a little bit, but we're still early on. A lot of teams only played 1 or 2 games. All right, ladies, let's talk some questions that we came up in our meeting here. So teams who have had success last year, it's not a guarantee for success this year. Your seniors leave. Each year is new. Sometimes, you change classes, which can happen. So, Coach, we'll start with you first. Talk about that, how success you had last year doesn't mean success this year, and sometimes there's surprises, like we saw with Grand Island.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's just a part of the game, right? In high school lacrosse, you get those seniors that you've had for those couple of years. You've had to develop. You have a great season, and then they're gone, right? And then you have to kind of rebuild. So that's kind of what, again, at Williamsville East is kind of seeing. And I know Grand Island took a hit, and so did Lancaster, right? They graduated a lot of seniors. I think that it's, again, you have like young teams with us, and you just have to build, right? So you have a building year. And then they're going to be kind of shaky to start off. But once you get to like mid-season, they're going to kind of get the hang of varsity and what the expectations are, and you're going to see a kind of a jump. So again, this last week of lacrosse was kind of a surprise with those upsets, but I think it was just those younger players getting their feet underneath them, right? And like by mid-season, I think you're going to kind of see it balance out a little bit with expectations.
And Amber, I always say it's not how you start, it's how you finish, right? Because no one
absolutely.
judges you in your first 2 days. Like, listen, I don't coach high school girls or high school boys, but I've coached around the age group of 13, 15, and I always tell them it's not how we are today, it's how we are at the end of the year. We're better at the end of the year than we are today, because that's really all people are going to remember. And sometimes it's tough, because sometimes you hit that plateau of this is who you are. But Amber, what are your thoughts on everything with this?
No, I think you're absolutely right. Obviously teams have to build, and obviously different from college. You're not recruiting your athletes, right? You just kind of have to do the best with what you're given. And I think that truly speaks to the coaches, like what can you do with these kids that were just given to you and signed up for your program? And where can you take them from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, right? Are you staying the same? Are you stagnant? What's your team culture like? There's so many nuances and little things that go into the success of the team or not the success of the team. And it speaks volumes to the types of players that are coming in, not just to the school, but again, like the coaching and the program itself.
And is that how important coaching is from the freshman standpoint? Because sometimes I feel like when I was in school, it kind of got blown over where it was more important of how you were JV. Because JV, we knew you were either going to make varsity or you're not based on how it was with development. Freshman was, well, you're just on the freshman team. But the development of freshmen and JV, how important it is, because ultimately those girls and the boys want to get to varsity, and how important it is those first 3 years to be good or to develop the proper way to be ready for varsity, right?
Yeah, I would say that coaching plays a massive part in this, right? In the program, and when you don't have, let's say, like those like stud athletes that you graduated. Again, like I think that the coaching changes based on who you have. So like when you're looking at those young JV players, you're not necessarily like looking right for the best lacrosse player, looking for the best athletes. So when I go down to JV and I'm looking at the beginning of season or in the off season about who I'm going to pull up that year, like you don't have to have the best stick work, because we can develop that, right? We can fix that. Like how are you standing? What's your athleticism? How hard are you working? What's your body language when your coach gives you constructive criticism? So the girls that show me that in a positive way, those are the girls that I like snag and bring up to varsity, right? Because I can develop them for the next 4 or 5 years, however long I have them. But I can't coach athleticism. I can't coach mindset. I can't coach personality, right? So again, so like when you have those younger players and you get them onto varsity, and you don't really have an older team, your coaching does change, right? Like you have to coach a little bit more positive, and you can't have those expectations until you coach those expectations. So when they do something wrong on the field, it's just like a different mindset? Is it they don't know it and now I have to coach it? Or is it, okay, I already coached this, now I can say like the expectation is you meet this, right? So.
And Amber, what do you see on the officiating side of coaching games where there's younger players out there? Do you ref it different than in a more experienced team?
I like to be proactive in my officiating, especially with younger teams, because like Emily said, like maybe they just don't know it.
Yeah.
And I have reffed teams where you have coaches screaming on the sideline, and you can tell that the girls are not listening to their coach, just blatantly not listening, or B, or they have no idea what the coach is talking about. So it's like that gives me a little insight or presumed insight into, okay, the coach is just yelling to yell, and hasn't really coached their team. They're just expecting their team to know whatever it is that they're screaming out, whether it's a, defensive concept or, an offensive game plan, whatever the case may be. And that obviously I'm non-biased. I'm an official. I'm not rooting for either team, but, and this is going to sound so corny, but I am rooting for the girls individually, right? Because I grew up here, I came up through Section 6, I played at Wheatfield, I went to Syracuse. I want our section to go to Section 5 and be successful and not be trounced every single time there's a crossover. So like, again, as Emily and I are really diving in and pushing these travel teams, that's why, right? Like, we're from the area, we want to see lacrosse grow. So from an officiating standpoint, you can tell, the coaches that are quiet and not engaged on the sideline versus, the screaming coach versus, like yesterday, Sweet Home did a great job with when their girls were coming off. I saw like all the teams cheering for them. The coach, now again, I can't hear and I'm not paying attention because I'm reffing the game, but seeing the coach take players like one by one to the side and they're talking, they're communicating. What is being said, I have no idea, but I think that speaks volumes and really creates, depending on what was said, a good culture within the team. And then when you're looking at, again, those JV athletes, it was the same thing when I was growing up. Like, if you were an 8th grader or 9th grader and you made varsity, like, you're the end all be all. But I think it's important as we continue to grow the game here in Western New York that you have your experienced varsity coach that's played the game, whatever, but you also need to have an experienced JV coach and not just some volunteer who's coaching modified, because that development, and again, I think your sister does this with Clarence and Orchard Park. They have like their little kiddie club teams that they play. We do play dates for like, K and 2 and 4 and 5. The development starts there, not just for the athleticism and the stick building and the touches, but also, what is your mindset as an athlete, right? Like, so it all starts there and continues on whatever your school program is. And again, you're not recruiting players. These are the players that are given to you in the district. So long-winded answer. It's very important.
And Coach, I just want to piggyback off that because it kind of leads us to our next discussion. How important is coaching development, for the coaches to get better each year as coaches for these girls?
Yeah, for sure. So we've seen a huge growth in Western New York with coaching capability, right? So there are more coaches coming into the area, or at least starting to coach in the area, that know what they're doing. So it's really refreshing to see girls come back to Buffalo from playing collegiately and like get into coaching, and it's fantastic for the girl athletes too. There's like what we were talking about earlier is there's still that huge gap though between the experienced coaches who have played the game or the coaches that coach travel and have a lot of coaching experience, right, and the coaches who are just getting into it. So I think that, like Amber was saying, when you're coaching, there's a difference between like screaming across the field and constructively coaching your girls, right? Like maybe they did just do something wrong, but am I yelling to yell or am I yelling to fix the problem, right? So I think that coaching development in the area is where we're going to kind of like bridge the gap between, all right, where are we now and how are we going to get to where we want to be with women's lacrosse in the area for sure.
And what about the officiating standpoint? How does it continue to evolve every year with what you guys learn and how you want to officiate the game based on the players on the field from their mindset of, because each year is different and girls and boys are different than they were 10 years ago.
Right. And I think it's the same sentiment that Emily just said, in that, I, as an official, we belong to our Buffalo Women's Lacrosse organization's official organization. But like, I don't have like an overseer. I don't have a boss. So it's up to me personally, individually, to up my game. So I ref summer travel. I will, when my daughter is playing in these tournaments like Mid-Atlantic and in Jersey, I'm texting or emailing the the director of those tournaments to see if they have an extra opening so I can ref and get extra touches just like a player would, right? Because the more experience that I have reffing and blowing my whistle and seeing that upper level of talent and skill, it's going to make me a better official when I come back here. And, you know, I personally had never had any complaints on my games, and in fact I've had parents come up to me and say thank you, that you were the least biased ref we've ever had, and you made the great calls. And after every game I'm getting those compliments, and it feels great, but that's because I've put the work in, you know, for my craft. So I think that, do I wish every ref would do that? Absolutely. But we're also officials. We get paid, you know, X amount of dollars to yell at other people's kids. And I think you know, you can only do so much with, you know, what you're given, you know, like maybe you work a 9 to 5 and you don't have that flexibility to travel. Right. So from an officiating standpoint, we absolutely, here's my plea, everyone, we absolutely need more officials. And we have a great mentorship program within the BWLOA officials organization. I will personally take you under my wing because we need more good officials in Section 6, because I think that helps coaching. I think it helps not just coaching, but the development of the girls individually, so they're not scared when they go out there. Or, you know, if I'm missing a call because someone's swiping a stick through someone's sphere, those are the calls that need to be made. And when you have officials that unfortunately have maybe never played because they're a man, or, you know, just don't put that work in to better their craft, it makes the game more dangerous because you're running around with weapons in your hand to hit people. So yeah, I think from both the coaching and the official standpoint, you need to put the work in to be better.
And Coach, before we take our next break, quick thoughts on that. So talk about the needs for more women and men getting involved for officials for both games.
Yeah, so again, I think it's super important for officials coming in. I think it's great for the girls to see, like, almost like returning players, right? Like when you have a coach that played, you know you can trust, like, okay, this girl knows what she's talking about, right? Because she played too. I think the same thing is can be said for officials and the coaching relationship. Like when I see Amber on the field, I can trust Amber's calls, right? Because Amber played. Amber does the development just like I do my coaching development. And I don't really question those calls, right? Because we both know the game. And it's really great to see, I know some of my old teammates from college, right, they're going back and reffing. It's really great to see that happen, because it's like, I know the game, and I know that the girl on the field knows the game, right, too. So with that being said, the development of the game, it just grows exponentially when both or all parties that are in that game at that time know what they're talking about and have been on that field in that same position.
When we come back, we'll continue our further discussion on the 2023 Girls Lacrosse Season Preview Show here on WNMA Athletics.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses, and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA, with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics. Call our Buffalo office today for an efficient, personal approach for all of your transportation needs.
That's her name.
What?
Oh, press the button, Madison. Main camera. All right, thank you, Madison, our assistant producer here today. All right, welcome back to the 2023 Girls Lacrosse Season Preview Show here on WNY Athletics. Coach Peters and Amber Hill. See, I knew
better than
Emily Peters, Amber Hill.
So much better than Amber Heard. Thank you.
Well, we don't have ESPN where we have the monitor reading all these questions. So
I'll wear a name tag next time. It's fine.
Okay, I know. Well, sorry.
It's okay.
Madison, your daughter, threw me off a little bit. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, her
Madison.
face. I apologize for everybody watching
Everyone,
this.
well, at least everyone got to see what
Madison's
her
big mouth was literally on the camera.
Well, we got our assistant producer some camera. I think that's what you really wanted, right?
Yeah, she's trying. She's learning, everyone. It's okay.
Yes. Well, Francis had to give me my water, which took him.
It's really your fault.
It is.
Yeah.
It is my fault.
We
All
have to
right.
take accountability.
I never take accountability. That's why I'm sitting in this chair. Just kidding. All right. So back to the show. Thank you for joining us. I know we talked about we had the boys preview show earlier. So let's talk about Nichols right now. Nichols won the championship last year in the Monsignor Martin. Losing some players. Who can beat them this year to win the Monsignor Martin, Coach?
Yeah, so I think that, again, Nichols has always been kind of dominant in that league. They lost a bunch of really great players last year. I know they have some younger players coming up. I think that we're going to see upset this year with Nardin. Nardin is a little stacked this year. They have Caroline Baldwin coming in from Team 1 from Western New York. And they also have Gabby Connors. She's coming through Nardin right now. She's on my 2024 team for travel. She actually is, she just joined the team. And from what I've seen from her, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with on the field. So I think that Nardin for sure is going to give Nichols a solid run for their money for that league.
Amber, do you agree?
I absolutely agree.
Anything else?
No, it's great. No, I agree. I'm
You
just
agree.
grabbing information.
Oh, grabbing information.
Yes.
Okay. I was expecting a little bit longer answer than agree. I was hoping for one more
I'm
word.
playing like Roblox or something on my phone.
Okay, I understand.
Busy.
Okay, Adam Schefter can tweet and stuff, but okay. All right, so we talked about a lot of stuff here, but let's get to the nitty gritty. Winning the draws, how important it is. Last year, Heather Carey from Williamsville South led Section 6 in draws, and we see the Bandits, right? The Bandits have a player specifically. I think it's Max Adler.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Specifically
He's a
to
faceoff guy.
win the faceoff. Now, Colorado didn't, but it helps maintaining possession, right? You get more chances. There is no really shot clock in the girls lacrosse, right?
There is.
Oh, there is now.
Collegiately.
But not in high school. We
Not in
talked
high
about that in
school.
our broadcast last year, how there should be. Well, Coach, let's start with there. Do you think there should be a shot clock before we get back to the faceoffs in high school?
Yes, I think the pace of girls lacrosse, when it comes to not even certain games, a lot of games, I think that a shot clock would be beneficial because the girls' game, again, you see that fast break, but it's not like the men's, right? There's the game is going to completely change when you bring a shot clock down to high school. Girls lacrosse tends to set up more, and it's taking them longer to get to net because they know they have that time. So I think if you implement the shot clock, it's going to improve the women's game because it's going to force girls to now have to make faster decisions and be more aggressive towards net.
Increase goals.
Increase goals.
Yep. And from an officiating standpoint, how do you see it?
We're going to have to run more. We're 100% going to have to run more. I mean, we had to do that. I know the conversation when we went from standing to free movement, we lost refs because now I don't get to blow my whistle and everybody stands and then I take my time and I signal my partner, right? Like everybody's still moving. So again, that makes the game that much faster and it evolves more. So I also am a huge proponent of bringing the shot clock down to high school, just based on the growth of the game. Again, you're gonna have to grow if you only have 90 seconds, a minute and a half, to figure out what you're doing strategically on either end, right? Like, and you have to make in-game adjustments. So that not only carries down from the coaching staff and what the culture is and what they've instituted in practice during the season, but also individually as a player, right? Like, have you bought in? Are you part of the system? Do you know the system? How well do you know the system on either end? So, yeah, I think that's going to definitely grow the game on the high school level. And eventually I think it'll come down because that's what they do. Every year there's rule changes collegiately. They put in whatever wild rule they want to. They see if it works out. They drop it if it doesn't. They keep it in if it does. And then you see 3-4 years later, it trickles down to just like free movement, just like the high school game. And yeah, officiating wise, we're definitely going to have to run a lot more. But it also, for me anyway, because I tend to Look at puppies and birds if they're just standing there with the ball. It's gonna force the officiating to be hopefully that much better.
And not to mention, like we saw in the Seneca West and Hamburg game earlier in the week, there was a 6-minute stall, right? Like, so when you can have possession, right?
Yeah.
When you have possession and there's no shot clock and the defense.
That's also skill too, a 6-minute stall.
Like, right? Like
Yeah.
the defense isn't able to break the stall. Like, what kind of game is that, right? Like, what are the girls learning from that game? So that's, to me, a 6-minute waste of a game. If defense hasn't gone over yet early in that season of how to break a stall. So it's like.
But is that conversation happening with the coaches in the off season? Like,
Is it?
I guess that's a good question.
I can tell you, growing up, I had no idea. I had no idea. Again, a stall, defensive slides, nothing that was intricate to the game within the game. I went to Syracuse not knowing literally anything. Stop the ball. That's your job. Not knowing that they're within a midfield section, a defensive unit. There's all these little nuances in the game within the game, especially with goalies, not knowing any of that. And again, as the game grows, that's so much more important now. And you're going to, with the institution of a shot clock and other rules that are going to carry down, I think you're really going to see, great coaches that have played the game and can institute, in-game adjustments and stuff like that versus, the district going, here's $3,000. Do you want to just coach this team? Go ahead.
It's going to be a huge testament to like what coaches want to be great and are going to do the development right, and what coaches are just kind of like take a step back. You're going to see a massive gap in teams because it's going to come down to like, all right, who's gonna make sure they can further the game with their knowledge, and who's just gonna kind of like sit back. So I agree wholeheartedly. I think the shot clock is almost much needed in high school at this point.
So 2 questions left here. Coach, in the beginning of the season, what do you tell your team? Does your goals change each year based on your returning players? I know we talked about the mental side of how you coach, but talk about that for a second.
Sure. So coming from travel and going to high school, I come in kind of hard, right? So my expectations are always super high. One of my favorite things about coaching girls is like you're showing them almost a whole new world. Like it's okay to be competitive. It's okay to be aggressive. It's okay to kind of like want and be more. So I kind of come in with that mindset is I'm here to just like make you better, right? Make you competitive. So that's how I kind of came into Williamsville East that first year, and the girls responded like tremendously, right? Like that was a team with Courtney McClay and Ellie Schau took us a section title, and they rallied. And that has been the mindset for my team here on out. This year's a little bit different. I still have the same culture because that's just what it is now over at East, but the girls are young, so I know that coming, like, especially for me, I know that I'm hard and I know that I'm critical and I know that I can, like, come off hard, and the girls do respond to that, but it's a little bit different with younger players. Like, you have to be positively, like, reinforcing them, right? So, whereas if it was an older, more seasoned player, I would be, like, down their throat, right? Like, you know better than this. Like, here's what you know, here's what you have to do, and go from there. Whereas, like, with the younger players, it's like, here's what you're doing well, here's what we need to improve on. So I know my sister over at Clarence over at like during the scrimmage, she came over to me while I was coaching during the full field, and she was like, I've never seen you so positive. I was like, I just feel like I really have to be this year. They're so young and they have so much to learn that I definitely can push harder in the upcoming years. But for right now, it's all right. It's time to learn. It's time to be positive. Kind of make you love the sport, want to do it in the off season, and teach you and coach you, and then I'm gonna be hard on you. So
Amber, what are your thoughts?
First of all, I love that Kat felt the need to come over and tell you that.
Yeah.
Kat's one of my favorite people, and that's hilarious. I could totally see her saying that.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with everything that Emily said. You know, it depends on what you have set up for your team culture. And also individually, right? Like I might be able to, coach this player this way. Like Emily said, like I can be down their throat, like this is what you did wrong. You know what the expectations are. You failed to meet the expectations. This is what I am expecting of you. Right. And that player, knowing that, will go out there, do what they need to do, work in the off season, work in their off time, in between games. And I know that I can say that to that player because that player will rise to the occasion. And then you have other players that, and younger players and even older players, have to be coached differently, where you have to do a little bit more of like a hand holding. Because, I don't want to say they're soft. That's not what I'm trying to say. But, players respond differently to different types of coaching.
Different personalities.
Right. Different personalities, 100%. I was the one that, Lisa Miller threw a Gatorade bottle at my head and told me to pull something out of something. So, and I responded to that. Right. And then that was the first time Syracuse beat Georgetown and I got MVP. So
Syracuse beat Georgetown in something?
We always beat Georgetown in
well,
everything.
The old Big East.
Oh,
I missed
my
that.
God.
Don't
here
even
we
get me
go.
started on
Don't get me started. Anyway, you asked for my opinion. Here we go. So, anyway, so yeah, I think it's extremely important as a coaching staff to recognize individually, like, what can I do for this player to bring the best out of this player? Right. And you're going to see the upper level coaches that do the development, go to LaxCon, go to these specific, coaching programs to better their craft. They're going to know how to pull the best out of their players instead of screaming on the sideline about something that they probably didn't even institute in practice during a game. So,
and, yeah, something that we were talking about earlier is also like the difference between like the coaching girls and coaching boys, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, especially with those the younger girls, when they are coming into a program, it is the environment that you build, right? So like, what are the older girls, what are they showing them? Like, what are they projecting, right? Are they projecting this is like a hardworking environment, we want to succeed, everybody's working towards a common goal? Or is it just kind of like playtime, right? Mm-hmm. So I always like to say, like, girls need to feel accepted in order to perform, and like that's just what it is when they come into a program. Like, are they going to feel accepted even though they're making mistakes, as long as they're working hard, right? So that's kind of like what I like to build, and on all my teams that I coach, not just Williamsville East, not just Empress. It's like anytime that I'm with girls, it's like, it's okay to make mistakes here as long as you learn from it, as long as you're working hard, as long as you're kind of like pushing and furthering the goal as a team. So,
but a lot, I think, exactly what you just said, but it has to carry on from the developmental side of that. So like if you're modified as social hour and then all of a sudden you've somehow made it to varsity and you're expected to perform, that changes the culture. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, coach is so mean and she's horrible. Mm-hmm. Now you have this, cancerous player to your team culture, and that's a problem. So, inviting your JV and your modified in to be part of that buy-in is huge and so crucial.
Mm-hmm. And that comes up from off-season work, right? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I run Warriors for the area, but mostly for Williamsville, and that's where the girls get to know me, right? Like, I'm a little bit different than my modified and JV coach. Obviously, I know that I have a little bit more of an extreme personality, but
no.
But yeah, so like that's just, it's so important. Like the girls from kindergarten through like 12th grade know who I am, what I expect, and that's just what I love, right? Like working with the girls and getting to know them and them getting to know me. That's super important. I know that Julie Buccieri over at Lancaster does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
My sister at Clarence does the same thing. Corey does an amazing job with positive energy at Niagara Wheatfield. Like, and that's the culture that we are trying to like promote in Western New York for like girls across. So.
Yeah, that's where it starts.
And then our last topic of conversation here. I really learned this watching the League World Series of how they always said it's important for these boys to be playing not just baseball year round, but play football, play basketball. It makes you a better athlete. It's the same thing for girls as well. Mm-hmm. But these girls are a little bit older. Talk about how important it is for the girls who are playing lacrosse to play other sports that makes them a better athlete and just to be more involved in other sports and how that makes you, better players out there, right?
Yeah, so I think it's funny. Like, you see girls coming from outside sports, and those girls, based on what other sport they kind of specialize in, like they have a very specific, great set of like different skills. So like the hockey players that come in, like always have amazing sticks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
yep.
they can.
And they have a way of running that's awkward.
Yeah, but they have the stick handles that I don't see from other players. And then my basketball girls have amazing defense because they know the body positioning and offensive movement because offense movement is the same. And then the soccer players come in with that stamina on midfield that just nobody else can match. So I think it's super interesting to watch these girls develop and play other sports and succeed in other sports because when it comes to the lacrosse field, it just translates so differently. But it translates to where they're seeing success because they play those other sports.
Yeah, I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. I played soccer, I played basketball, and then obviously lacrosse. You see the translation, and it also, when you take time off, which is why in my old age, I have not stopped playing because I know when you take that break, it's very difficult to come back, especially as. And I don't play soccer or basketball anymore, but I know from a lacrosse standpoint, the game evolves so quickly, even just year to year, that if I were to take a year off, I'm going to come back and as a goalie, what's the point? So I think it's so very much important for these kids, and very rarely do you see these kids that are making, the watch lists and the top scoring lists and defenders to watch. Very rarely are those kids 1-sport athletes, right? They're 2 or 3 sport athletes. And not only does it help you lacrosse IQ wise, again, basketball players are going to see the open space, right? And like you talked about, soccer players coming in with their athleticism, but it's also when you go from team to team to team, you learn to be a better teammate. Yeah. And again, when we talk about culture and being a good teammate, I think that plays a huge role in it because you're used to being on a team as opposed to working individually or, maybe not at all, right? So I think that conditions your mindset to be all right, here's the next round. Here I go with this new group of girls. And, how do I get accepted? How do I feel included? And what do I do? What work do I got to put in to make those things a reality?
As we wrap up the show, let's just take a look at some of the stats here. It's early on in the year. Some teams only played 1 or 2 games, so we won't take a look at overall records. But Sophia Massaro from Lewiston Porter, 7 goals, 7 assists, 14 points. But Cameron Smith from Sweet Home has 13
yesterday.
13 goals on the year on 17 shots. Those are some of your stats from the scoring leaders. On the field for ground balls, Emily Frankowski, 15 ground balls. She leads that category. And then for draws, Colette Princhup from Niagara Falls has draw control. Is it draw control, right?
Yeah.
Draw control, 17 out of 36. So she's the league leader in there. But the season is still early. So final thoughts before we wrap this up, ladies.
First of all, I got to say that you totally skipped goalies, and I'm very upset.
Well, the reason why I skipped goalies is because we saw a stat earlier from one team that did not look right. So I didn't want to trust it, but if you want to go for goalies, because I know you're a goalie, Amber, I'll let you do that because I don't want to have that come out of my mouth.
Wow.
I don't want to be wrong. What if it's wrong?
Well, Lou at Frontier, right?
Thank you,
she's on my she's on my 2024 team. Lou's amazing.
Oh yeah, she's a great goalie.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. She won Queen of the Crease. At
yes, I saw that.
The, top camps for goalies. I don't have anything but good things to say about her. I know that Taylor Kowski plays for me over at Empress as well. Taylor improved so much this past off season. She and Lou, in my mind, are neck and neck for goalies. So I think that goalie-wise in the area, Lou and Taylor are definitely some of the top goalies to look out for. They're up and coming. They're juniors this year, and they are just top of the game for me.
I have to definitely echo what Emily's saying. I feel like in this area, reffing as much as I've reffed and seen goalies, again, it's the same thing. You have your really great goalies that, could make or break a team depending on if they're having an on day or an off day. And then you have, the kids that I feel bad for because it looks like they drew the short end of the stick, and their coach just threw on the borrowed equipment, right? They're like, oh, you don't want to run today, we're gonna stick you in. So I personally, a shameless selfless plug here, I also do run individual training sessions for goalies, so hit me up if you want to make your game better. But yeah, I love watching good goalies, and unfortunately in this area, again, it's few and far between. Lou is a great goalie, and I love watching her play for Empress. And for Frontier, I love reffing Frontier games because she comes up with these incredible saves, and her technique is structured, and she moves with intent, and her clears are always on point. So.
And it's not just and Amber, you can speak more on this, but it's not just about like the save percentage. Like these goalies, like the really great goalies, it's like about communication too.
100%.
So like, are the goalies talking to their defense? So like these great goalies.
In what way is the goalie talking to the defense?
Sometimes the goalie communication to the defense is so much more important than defense talking to defense, right? So it's like the really great goalies, you can hear from the other side of the field because like they're screaming instructions at their defense. So like the goalies that play in the off season, right? They just have a quicker way of thinking. They're tracking ball. They're talking to the defense. They're telling defense which way to push their girl, right? And like I know, like when I play with Amber, like in our leagues, like Amber's screaming at me which way to push my girl, even when we're playing sixes. So like I know from experience, like when a goalie is chirping at you from the crease, right? It's so helpful, and it's like it's so great because you know exactly what you're doing, exactly what you have to do, exactly where your help is, and I just can't say anything more about like how much a goalie impacts the team.
Yeah, and I will also say this for Emily. I've never had to tell Emily like, no, you're other right, like I do other players. So yeah, no, I think that's extremely important for a goalie, and it's hard too because. Again, as a young girl, a young lady, you want to be accepted. You don't want to say the wrong thing. So like when I work with my goalies, like you could say breadcrumbs, pineapple, like it doesn't matter what you say, but you have to get used to not only just speaking, processing, and tracking the ball. Like we'll worry about, the direction and how you're directing your defense later on. I just need you to open your mouth first because so many silent goalies, it's painful to watch and to see and to not hear. And
it's painful for defense too.
Right. Like if I can take that burden off of you being the quarterback of the defense and tell you where I want that shot to come from, that makes my job easier. The burden is off the defense. And if we can get, our Section 6 goalies to get to that point where they're directing and having their defense function as a unit behind them, sky's the limit. It all starts, defense wins championships. So.
And just kidding, Francis. I didn't want to say Francis was in my ear. You have some officiating information that we have to get through.
I do. Real quick, if you want to become an official, we do run classes during the summer and into the winter. It's really like informal and it's easy. You can email B as in boy, WLO, recruitment@gmail.com, or Jim might call me out on this, but you can personally email our president, Jim Formato, if you'd like to join. And his email is his name, Jim Formato, FORM as in mouse, ATO @gmail.com. He's great. Our organization is awesome. We have a lot of referees that want to grow the game and want to be mentors and really show you how to up the game and grow the game in Western New York. So thank you for the plug.
Hey, you're welcome. And just a reminder.
Empress contact info.
Oh, yes.
Empress contact info. So Empress is really easy. There's a website, Empress Lacrosse. That's all you have to type in. It's the first thing that pops up with the little logo. And from there you have every contact info you could possibly want, probably more than you want. So Scott Militello is actually the director of Empress. So again, go to Empress, click contact. You're going to get all the emails. You can get all the emails of the coaches, even the assistant coaching staff you can contact. So again, Empress Lacrosse, type it in. On any search engine, it's the first thing that comes up, and then you'll get all the contact info from there.
And they have a schedule too, I believe. Like that's
Yeah,
right there.
You can,
so
you can access the rosters for the
Yeah.
travel teams. We already have our schedule for the next year and a half. Anything you could possibly want and more, photos, what girls would be on the team, what coaches coach each team, the practice schedules for the next year. Yeah, it's all on there.
Just a reminder, you can watch all the boys and girls Section 6 and the Monsignor Martin lacrosse games on the NFHS network throughout the rest of the season. We'll be at all the big-time games. Amber and I will be doing some games. It'd be good to work with you again. All right, so for Amber Hill, who played collegiately at the Syracuse University for goalie, and Emily Peters from Williamsville East, coach, thank you for joining us. For Francis Beck, our producer and our assistant producer, and we're going to give you a shout out here, Madison Hill, who you saw on camera for a second.
It's Madison Starnes.
Madison
I didn't make
Starnes,
that one.
I apologize. Thank you for joining us today. All right, so this was the 2023 Girls Lacrosse Season Preview Show as part of High School Sports Saturday. Thank you so much, and thank you for Francis and Frank letting me fill in this week, and we'll see you next week.
Sometimes it just isn't your day. We all need a little help from time to time. That's why we're committed to providing safe, quick, and cost-effective care. And we keep it simple. Just walk in. We're here for you. Learn more today.
Do you insure a lot of businesses?
Yes, we do.
How about restaurants?
We got a bunch.
Do you cover property damage?
Yes, we do.
How about my equipment?
Covered.
How about sewer backup?
We got it.
What if my cook gets hurt?
You're covered.
Foodborne illnesses?
Covered.
What if my party tent goes down?
Covered under property damage.
And you say this is all under one policy?
One policy.
When do I pay?
Once a month.
Just one time?
Just one.
Is there anything you don't cover?
What's your record for consecutive questions asked?
31.
Tables. We don't do tables.
Gotta love Buffalo.
For all your insurance questions, call the Wolf at 835-WOLF.
We realize now more than ever is the perfect time to have the perfect house. We're confident we'll find your dream home. Howard Hanna. Home happens here.
All right, so you're gonna put a word in, or
So no, I go to